Chapter 864. Ningshu held a sharp blade and planned to teach Li Guzi a lesson. He heard hurried footsteps outside the house. Second sister said she went to the toilet, but we still can't find her. We've looked everywhere. The voices outside the house were getting closer and closer, and the footsteps were getting louder and louder, and listening to the footsteps, there were a lot of people. Ningshu thought quickly in his mind. The most important thing now was not to have anything to do with Li Guzi. Putting away the dagger, Ningshu opened the window, jumped out of the window, and then closed the window. Ningshu bypassed the room and returned to the hall. On the table in the hall, there were colorful lines which were used to make knots. The reborn Bai Yiqiao was very good at making knots. She had seen many styles in the big families. The women around her all came to learn from her, and Chen Ermiai also came to learn. But she was defiled by Li Guzi in Fang Yong's house. Now Bai Yiqiao and Fang Yong were married. Ningshu picked up the unfinished knots on the table. Ningshu was weaving knots in his hand, and went to the abandoned room in the backyard. Hey, what are you all doing here? Ningshu looked curious. I said there was no one in the house. You all ran here. Sister, where did you go? Bai family's sister said you were missing. A man Ningshu asked. This man was Chen Ermiai's brother, Chen family's eldest brother. He looked simple and honest. Ningshu looked at Bai Yiqiao. After I went to the toilet, I went back to the house. Although Bai Yiqiao was wearing rural women's clothes, they were embroidered with complicated embroidery, which made the coarse linen clothes immediately rise in grade. Bai Yiqiao was a concubine in her previous life. She knew how to serve people with beauty. A woman would dress up for herself. Under limited conditions, she would also make herself look good. At this time, Bai Yiqiao looked a little surprised, and then said with a smile, Second sister went back and didn't tell us. She let us look everywhere. I heard that Dog Li came to find you. I thought you went to play. Bai Yiqiao said again. Ningshu hurriedly shook her head. I didn't play with Li Guzi. Sister-in-law Fang, how can you say that? I learned how to play with Li Guzi from you. Everyone knows what kind of person Li Guzi is. How can I have anything to do with Li Guzi? I can't wait to avoid him. Sister-in-law Fang, how can you say that? Bai Yiqiao said gently. I'm just saying. What are you guys doing here? Ningshu squeezed into the house and saw Li Guzi who had been tied up. He said in surprise, Sister-in-law Fang, why is there a man in your house? Isn't this Doggy Li? Bai Yiqiao reluctantly said. He must have slipped into the room to sleep. Ningshu's face was full of disdain for Li Guzi. When big brother Fang Yong comes back, let him teach this Doggy Li a good lesson. If I don't know, I'll think that you're hiding a man and ruin your reputation for no reason. Bai Yiqiao's face was a little ugly. There was a moment of sharpness in her eyes. Looking at a few long-tongued women pointing and whispering to each other, Bai Yiqiao scolded Li Guzi in her heart. Especially when she heard Ningshu call Fang Yong and call him Big Brother Fang, Bai Yiqiao suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. It must be that Li Guzi is not honest. He came to my house to steal chickens and dogs. As a result, he lay down and fell asleep. Bai Yiqiao calmly explained. Ningshu nodded. This Li Guzi is a scum. Sister-in-law Fang, I'm telling you, don't let him off easily. I'll listen to second sister. Bai Yiqiao said. Chen family's eldest brother Ningshu said, let's go back. Father and mother should be worried. Ningshu smiled and said to Bai Yiqiao, then sister-in-law Fang, I'll go back first. Ningshu turned around, and the smile on his face disappeared. Chen family's eldest brother saw Ningshu like this. After leaving the Fang family's house, Ningshu asked, Sister, are you not feeling well? It's okay, Ningshu said. Looking back at the Fang family, he felt that Bai Yiqiao was really vicious. She knew the importance of reputation to a woman, but she used this method to destroy Chen Ermiai. So many people saw her doing dirty things with Li Guzi, and Li Guzi also said that Chen Ermiai seduced him, and said that Chen Ermiai was an incomparably lewd woman. No matter how Chen Ermiai refuted, no one believed her. The eyes of others were like knives and swords. The Chen family's reputation was ruined by Chen Ermiai. A woman who lost her chastity was simply dirty to the eyes at a glance. Wherever she went, she would point and talk. Chen Ermiai was going to be drowned in a pig cage. or Chen Ermei would be put under house arrest. This house arrest was a punishment for women. It punished the improper relationship between men and women, destroyed the woman's desire, and directly sewed up the nether regions to achieve the effect of house arrest. It was so harsh to women. At this time, Li Guzi stood up and said that he wanted to marry Chen Ermei. In the situation at that time, marrying Li Guzi was the best choice. Chen Ermei was given to Li Guzi to be his wife. Li Guzi was an out-and-out hooligan. Calling him a hooligan was an exaggeration. He was a shameless, unmanly, and shameless person. Li Guzi was lazy. He would not run around for the family's livelihood. He would not pull out the grass in the field. If there was no food at home, he would either steal it or go to other people's houses to eat. In short, Li Guzi was a hopeless and inhumane scum. After Chen Ermei married him, she had to do everything at home. Washing clothes and working in the field were all on Chen Ermei's shoulders. If there was a little money at home, Li Guzi would take it away and go out to drink. He would also beat Chen Ermei. He often regarded himself as Chen Ermei's savior. He said that if he had not married Chen Ermei would have been drowned in a pig cage. Chen Ermei was very tired and had to face Li Guzi's inhumane treatment. He even beat Chen Ermei until she had a miscarriage. She had to work in the field, cut the pigweed, and carry the pigweed. Li Guzi never helped her. He did not care whether Chen Ermei was dead or alive. Sometimes when he went home, he pressed Chen Ermei on the bed and never cared about Chen Ermei's feelings. In her 30s, Chen Ermei was tortured to death. Ningxu sighed. No wonder Chen Ermei wanted to revenge on Li Guzi in an era where men were everything. Under Li Guzi's abuse, Chen Ermei did not even have the heart to resist. Even if she wanted revenge, she would let Ningxu do it. This was a woman living in ancient times. Reputation was a heavy shackle on her neck. Chen Ermei was the victim, but no one cared about how she was hurt. Instead, they wanted to drown Chen Ermei in a pig cage. Li Guzi only received a little punishment. Chen Ermei was tortured to death. If it were Ningxu, even if she died together with him, she would teach Li Guzi a lesson. Chapter 865. Chen Ermei's forbearance won't make Li Guzi treat her well. Forbearance will only make people like Li Guzi bully her even more. In the end, it's the restraint and oppression of women in this era. Ningxu returned home with his elder brother Chen Li next to him. When they entered the house, Father Chen raised his pipe and hit Ningxu. Ningxu didn't have the experience of standing still and letting people hit him. He dodged in a flash. "You still dare to dodge?" Father Chen's eyes were red. Madame Li comforted from the side. "Well, old man, isn't Ermei back?" Father Chen sat on the Kong and took a deep breath of the cigarette. He said angrily, "You are already a big girl. Don't do things that make me not know where to put my face. You still say that you are close to Li Guzi." Ningxu rolled his eyes. "Dad, how can I be with Li Guzi? Li Guzi is clearly at Fang Yang's house, and is even sleeping at Fang Yang's house. What does it have to do with me? Fang Yang's wife came to me and your mother, and said that you were playing Luozi and then disappeared." Father Chen knocked on the small table on the Kong with his pipe. "I just went to the toilet, and Bai Yiqiao was so nervous. Who knows what she is thinking?" Ningxu said. "I will never go to her house to learn Luozi again." "If you don't go, then don't go. Luozi is only a little money. Just do the things at home well," Father Chen said. Ningxu smiled. "Thank you, Dad." "Go and feed the chicken," Father Chen said. Ningxu opened the curtain and went out of the room. He picked some yellow leaves from the vegetable field at the door and cut them to feed the chicken. Chun-Li helped Ningxu do things. Ningxu said, "I don't think Bai Yiqiao is a bad person. Bai Yiqiao is good-looking, right?" Ningxu looked at Chun-Li. Chun-Li nodded his head honestly. "Yes, she is. Many people are saying that Fang Yong is burning incense to be able to marry the daughter of a scholar. Moreover, she is a virtuous and beautiful daughter-in-law." Ningxu sneered. In the eyes of men, there was only color. The wife looked at the 8 characters, and the concubine looked beautiful or ugly. In Ningxu's view, Bai Yiqiao's whole body couldn't get rid of that concubine style. She was already married to Fang Yong, but she did such a thing to Chen Ermei. In her last life, Bai Yiqiao was caught in bed and slept on the same bed with the manservant in the house. The head of the house broke her legs on the charge of adultery. In this life, Bai Yiqiao used this method on Chen Ermiai. Ningxu really couldn't figure it out. Why would such a person have the chance to be reborn? Bai Yiqiao was a genuine green tea bitch. Although she was reborn and lived a down-to-earth life with Fang Yong, but in her last life, she tried to seize the favor of the young master. The young master fell in love with her in this life. He even wanted to divorce his wife and remarry for her. The reborn Bai Yiqiao was like a cheat. She had money in business and knew that chaos was coming. Fang Yong would participate in the uprising, grow food and buy food. She often sent food and clothes to the uprising army, causing many people in the uprising army to envy Fang Yong for having a good wife. Even the leader of the uprising army, the future emperor, had a good impression of her. But in this life, Bai Yiqiao swore to live a good life with Fang Yong and make it up to him. No one else cared. In the end, Bai Yiqiao naturally became a legendary woman. Ningxu, her mission was to take revenge on Bai Yiqiao and Li Gouzi. Naturally, she wouldn't let Bai Yiqiao be so glorious. Rebirth was rebirth. Why did she have to trample on others? Ningxu asked Chun-Li, "Big brother, what kind of sister-in-law do you want to marry?" Chun-Li scratched his head. "Someone who is willing to treat me well. If she looks good, that would be even better." Ningxu's mouth twitched. Without strength, beauty was a disaster, whether it was for men or women. Ningxu said some meaningful words, which made Bai Yiqiao's situation a bit awkward. The most important thing was that Li Gouzi was in her house. Bai Yiqiao's previous excuse was that Chen Ermiai and Li Gouzi had agreed to meet at her house. Chen Ermiai used the excuse of learning to play Luozi to have an affair with Li Gouzi. But now nothing happened between Chen Ermiai and Li Gouzi. Instead, she fell into a quarrel. Bai Yiqiao couldn't help but scold Li Gouzi in her heart for being useless. Fang Yong came back with 2 pheasants. Bai Yiqiao thought about it and told Fang Yong what had happened. Fang Yong was powerful. He lifted the tied-up Li Gouzi and gave him a fat beating. The wretched Li Gouzi was beaten until he cried out. Bai Yiqiao was angry with Li Gouzi. She let Fang Yong beat him and didn't stop him. Fang Yong was a man of propriety. He stopped after teaching Li Gouzi a lesson. He threw Li Gouzi out of the yard of Fang's house and pointed to Li Gouzi and said coldly, "If you dare to come to my house again, I will break your legs." Hearing that her leg was broken, Bai Yiqiao's leg reflexively turned cold. Her leg was broken in her last life. And the feeling of her skull being broken made Bai Yiqiao still terrified. Since she was reborn, she felt that it was a dream. When she woke up, she was still crawling on the ground with a broken bowl in front of her, begging the people who came in front of her to give her some money and food. She didn't want to live like that again in her life. She wanted to live a good life with Fang Yong. Fang Yong was a hunter. He hunted in the mountains all year round. His body was stained with blood and had a murderous air. With such a cold face, he was quite powerful. Li Gouzi, who bullied the weak and feared the strong, was so scared that he almost peed in his pants. He didn't dare to say anything at all. Bai Yiqiao said to Fang Yong. Li Gouzi said that he came to find Chen Ermiai. He said that he had an appointment with Chen Ermiai, but he slipped into the room and fell asleep. Fang Yong frowned his thick black eyebrows and said doubtfully, "Why did Chen Ermiai make an appointment with Li Gouzi in our house?" Fang Yong was a person who fought with wild beasts in the mountains and forests. If he really didn't have a brain, how could he rise in the army and finally achieve glory? Bai Yiqiao pursed her lips and said casually, "I don't know. It's estimated that Father Chen is strict, so he can only use this method." Fang Yong told Bai Yiqiao, "Don't believe what people like Li Gouzi say. Which girl in the village doesn't take a detour when she sees him? Chen Ermiai is not so stupid to have a relationship with such a person." When Bai Yiqiao heard Fang Yong's words, she was immediately unhappy. She always felt that there was an inseparable connection between Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai. After all, these two people were husband and wife in their previous life and had children. Although she was not worried, Bai Yiqiao said with a smile, "So you know Chen Ermiai very well?" "It's not that I know. If Chen Ermiai didn't degrade herself, she wouldn't have interacted with Li Gouzi like this. Li Guzi is not someone a woman can entrust her life to, Fang Yong said with a smile. Fang Yong pinched Bai Yiqiao's white and smooth face. Why do I feel that you are jealous? You are my wife. Chen Ermiai has nothing to do with me. I'm just talking about it. Bai Yiqiao patted Fang Yong's hand away and pretended to be angry. I'm not jealous. You're jealous. Chapter 866. Fang Yong didn't pursue the reason why Li Guzi came to his house. Fang Yong didn't ask why Li Guzi came to his house. After all, Li Guzi didn't go to the east house to touch the dog, or go to the west house to steal chickens. Burglary was a very common thing. Bai Yiqiao breathed a sigh of relief and asked with jealousy, Do you like people like Chen Ermiai? Chen Ermiai was like a thorn in her heart. Bai Yiqiao could never forget that in her last life, Chen Ermiai was wearing brocade clothes and throwing money into her bowl. If it weren't for the death of her father, she wouldn't have fallen to the point of begging. In her last life, her eyes were high. Relying on the fact that she was the daughter of a scholar, she didn't get along well with her relatives. When she was down and out, no one helped her. In this life, Bai Yiqiao changed a lot, but the existence of Chen Ermiai was like a fishbone in her throat. Therefore, Bai Yiqiao was a little sensitive, especially when she heard the name of Chen Ermiai from Fang Yong's mouth. However, Bai Yiqiao wouldn't make a scene. She knew very well that men were tired of crazy and unreasonable women. So she questioned Fang Yong with a delicate and jealous appearance. Bai Yiqiao's appearance was very delicate and pretty. Her white skin was not like that of a peasant woman. Her body had a faintly discernible charm, which made Fang Yong like her very much. If I can have a wife like Yiqiao, I won't care about other women, Fang Yong said. Fang Yong was really good to Bai Yiqiao. Fang Yong tried his best to do well inside and outside the house, so that Bai Yiqiao could do less. Such a charming wife, he really couldn't bear to let her be tired. However, Bai Yiqiao still helped to do things. Bai Yiqiao planned to be a loving husband and wife with Fang Yong. Naturally, they had to support each other and support Fang Yong's brilliant career. Fang Yong's mother, who had bad eyesight, was very obedient. Even if she encountered any grievances, or if Fang Yong's mother said something bad, Bai Yiqiao would endure it. After that, Fang Yong would be twice as good to her. Therefore, Bai Yiqiao was a very smart woman. In her last life, she experienced a complicated struggle in the backyard and benefited from it in this life. Ning Shu had a lot of things to do at home. He did some trivial things like cooking with Madame Li. Old Man Chen and Chen Li wouldn't enter the kitchen. Cooking was something that the women did. Ning Shu was thinking about how to deal with Li Guzi. Li Guzi actually wandered around the Chen family. When he saw Ning Shu, he immediately licked his bare face and said some specious words. How could you abandon me at Fang Yong's house? We had an agreement. After you left, I was beaten up by Fang Yong. Li Guzi said to Ning Shu coquettishly, My body hurts. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at Li Guzi indifferently. Li Guzi's appearance was really unpleasant to the eyes. There were vegetable leaves on his teeth. He looks like a toad. Not to mention his appearance, Guzi Li's extremely shameless character made Sister Chen want to commit suicide at that time. Although Sister Chen is not so beautiful and stunning, her facial features are good. Her figure is moderate, and she is pleasing to the eye. When Li Guzi saw that Ning Shu was indifferent to his words, he was a little anxious. Li Guzi felt that he was not young and should marry a wife. Sister Chen was still good. Li Guzi knew that Chen family didn't like him, so he shouted to Ning Shu across the fence, Sister, have you forgotten that we are in the same room? We made an appointment. Ning Shu's expression was cold. Li Guzi really wanted to pour feces on her body all the time, and wanted to make her reputation unbearably bad. In the yard, Madame Li heard Li Guzi's mouth full of feces and her face was pale with anger. Li Guzi, if you dare to come to my house again and slander my sister, I won't spare you. Madame Li, Sister Chen's mother, hit Li Guzi with a broom. While dodging Madame Li's broom, Li Guzi shouted shamelessly, My sister and I like each other. Auntie Li, we are both surnamed Li. We are from the same family. Li Guzi's behavior attracted a lot of people to watch. Madame Li was so angry that her body trembled. I will tear your mouth. It was an eye-opener for Ning Shu. How could a person be so shameless? Li Guzi was so noisy that someone must have given him advice. Ning Shu stroked Madame Li's back and looked at Li Guzi. Li Guzi? Yes. Li Guzi immediately replied with a smile. Ning Shu said, I never made an appointment with you in any room. It was you who went to the Fong family by yourself. There were many daughters-in-law and girls in the Fong family that day. Did you peep at them? How did you get into the Fong family's room? Ning Shu was indifferent. The door was locked. How did you get in? We had an agreement. Li Guzi said anxiously. We did that. When Li Guzi said that, Ning Shu suddenly felt that many people were looking at him with subtle eyes. Ning Shu pursed his lips. He opened and clenched his fists. Ning Shu really wanted to kill Li Guzi. Ning Shu said calmly, in the Fong family's sister-in-law's house? Do you think the Fong family's sister-in-law's house is a brothel or a red light district? Why do you think we met in the Fong family's sister-in-law's house? Li Guzi, if you don't make it clear, our family will ask Li Zheng to deal with this matter. Ning Shu said, we have to prove the Fong family's sister-in-law's innocence. How could she allow you to enter her house? Li Guzi immediately said, Fong Yong's wife didn't know at all. We made an appointment. Son of a bitch, you have to slander my daughter like this. Mrs. Li hit Li Guzi with a broom. What kind of rotten person are you? Don't we all know that my daughter is involved with you? Li Guzi was unhappy at once. Auntie, I'm not happy when you say that. I don't care if you're happy or not. Mrs. Li hit Li Guzi's face with a broom, and Li Guzi screamed. Ning Shu looked at Li Guzi silently. He was determined to pour feces on her. In order to dispel a rumor, another rumor had to be created. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at Fong Yong and Bai Yiqiao, who were walking towards him. Bai Yiqiao was wearing a pleated skirt, a brightly colored blouse, and a delicately embroidered vest. Her face was delicate, with a charming and immature feeling of being a woman for the first time. She was not inferior to those little wives of big families. She was particularly different in the gray crowd. The fabric Bai Yiqiao was wearing was not very good, but she was good at using some small accessories and embroidery to make her clothes beautiful. Many men's eyes were looking at Bai Yiqiao. Fong Yong stared at Li Guzi and said in a low voice, Are you making trouble again? Seeing Fong Yong, Li Guzi shrank a little. He felt that the place where Fong Yong hit him was painful again. He said in a low voice, I didn't. I came to find Chen Ermiai. Don't look for others. What kind of virtue do you have? If you want to make trouble again, I'll take care of it. Fong Yong said coldly. Bai Yiqiao frowned tightly. What did Fong Yong mean? Why did he care about Chen Ermiai? Why? Chapter 867. When Bai Yiqiao saw that Fong Yong wanted to take care of this matter, she was very dissatisfied. Her face sank. In the end, there was an unspoken connection between Fong Yong and Chen Ermiai. Could it be that the two of them were going to be together in this life? Bai Yiqiao couldn't help but want to stomp her feet. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. This is a matter between me and Chen Ermiai. Li Guzi said with a trembling voice. Bai Yiqiao opened her mouth and said, Li Guzi, even if you and second sister have the same heart, you shouldn't make such a ruckus and ruin second sister's reputation. Then find a matchmaker to come to the Chen family to propose marriage. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and said sarcastically to Bai Yiqiao, Bai Yiqiao, are you sick? Who has the same heart as Li Guzi? I also said that you and Li Guzi have hooked up. Chen Ermiai, what are you talking about? What nonsense are you talking about? Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her eyebrows were raised, and she looked at Chen Ermiai sharply. I said, if you like to be a pimp so much, why don't you go to a brothel? Who made an appointment with Li Guzi? Li Guzi clearly went to your house to be a pimp in your own house. How much did Li Guzi give you as a kickback to treat your own house as a chicken coop? Deceiving the big girls and the little girls to your house, saying that they are making a net, is simply harming the girls in the village. I didn't make an appointment with Li Guzi, but you and Li Guzi made an appointment to let Li Guzi ruin the girls in the village and earn money that goes against his conscience. Ning Shu opened his mouth and said a bunch of things, making Bai Yiqiao so angry that her face turned purple, especially the eyes of the people around her. Some of the girls who had come to her house looked at her strangely and moved away from her without leaving a trace. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Chen Ermiai was biting like a mad dog. Chen Ermiai, if you talk nonsense again, I won't be polite to you, Bai Yiqiao said with a cold face. Ning Shu said casually. Who doesn't know how to talk nonsense? Aren't you also talking nonsense? You said that Li Guzi and I are in love with each other. What kind of heart do you have? I've never seen such a shameless pimp. At least the girls in the brothel are willing. How can you be so black-hearted as to harm the daughter-in-law of a girl from the same village? If you want to throw feces on her, I'll bite you hard. Bai Yiqiao said coldly. Chen Ermiai, pay attention to what you say. What do you mean by pimping? So many girls and daughters-in-law came to my house, but nothing happened. Why did Dogly bite you? Ning Shu shrugged. Who knows? Maybe you made a deal with Li Guzi. Li Guzi sleeps in your house, not mine. Bai Yiqiao, maybe you and Dogly are in love with each other, and insist on pulling me down as a cushion. Ning Shu bluntly said. A person like Dogly is so ugly, and there are vegetable leaves on his teeth. The vegetable leaves are all yellow. It must be from last night. Tenli facing the wind has bad breath. Who would like such a person? Bai Yiqiao, your taste is really unique. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her whole body was trembling. The veins on her forehead were bulging. She looked at Ning Shu with a particularly sharp and disgusted gaze. Chen Ermiai, speaking evil words can't solve the problem. Fang Yong protected Bai Yiqiao behind him. Don't make trouble for this matter. I don't want to make trouble. Who is the one insinuating? Ning Shu said indifferently. As long as Dogly comes to my house to make trouble, I think it was instigated by Bai Yiqiao. Come and tear my legs apart. You. Okay, don't make trouble. Fang Yong said to Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was stunned. She looked at Fang Yong with disbelief. Now that she was being bullied, her husband protected her and Chen Ermiai. Did the two of them have private dealings with each other? Fang Yong, you. Bai Yiqiao turned and left. Since her rebirth, she loved Fang Yong and made up for him. She always put Fang Yong first, but in exchange, she was treated like this by Fang Yong. Fang Yong pinched his eyebrows and said to Dogly fiercely, If you make trouble again, I'll make you suffer. Don't think I'm joking. If you let Yiqiao get involved in this matter again, I won't let you have an easy time. After Fang Yong finished speaking, he chased after Bai Yiqiao. Who is afraid of you? As soon as Fang Yong left, Dogly immediately became cocky. He turned his head and said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu picked up the broom and hit Dogly's body heavily. If you say one more word, I'll hit you until you can't take care of yourself. Old Man Chen and Chun-Li came back from work. Seeing so many people gathered at the door of their house, they quickly ran back to take a look. Seeing Ning Shu chasing after Dogly, Chun-Li didn't even think about it. He picked up the hoe on his shoulder and threw it at Dogly. Dogly was scared out of his wits and quickly ran away. The onlookers at the door gradually dispersed. Old Man Chen looked at Ning Shu with a gloomy face. Look at you. Do you still want to be a father? I'll deal with this matter, Ning Shu said. Deal with it? How do you want to deal with it? Your reputation is ruined. What are you going to say to your husband's family? Old Man Chen looked irritated. Can't you love yourself a little? Dogly doesn't find anyone, but he comes to you and us. Ning Shu said coldly. Then I won't get married. Is it up to you to decide whether to get married or not? Old Man Chen knocked the pipe on the table fiercely. Do you want your father to go to the government office at such an old age? If you don't get married at the age of 17, your father will go to prison. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. He forgot that in ancient times, if a girl didn't get married at the age of 17, her parents would be guilty. If a boy didn't get married at the age of 20, the girl's parents would also be guilty. This was the moral principle of the feudal society. This was the reason why the ancient society heavily favored boys over girls. Giving birth to a daughter was a waste of money. If the daughter couldn't get married, the parents would be guilty. Fuck, such a world should be destroyed. The more Old Man Chen spoke, the angrier he got. He reached out his hand to hit Ning Shu, but Ning Shu dodged. Father, don't hit him. It's Dogly who is pestering my sister. Chun-Li protected Ning Shu. It's useless even if you beat her to death. What a waste of money, a waste of money. Old man Chen didn't hit Ning Shu. He muttered irritably. After dinner, Ning Shu washed the dishes. After everything was done, Ning Shu returned to his room. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate his peerless martial arts. Because there was less pollution and more spiritual energy in ancient times, Ning Shu cultivated a lot of qi-jin in 2 or 3 days. Today, Dog Li came to make trouble. Ning Shu planned to teach Dog Li a lesson. Bai Yiqiao tried to make her have a relationship with Dog Li, so she would give her a taste of her own medicine. Even if Bai Yiqiao was on guard against Chen Ermiai, why did she set her up and let Chen Ermiai and Dog Li have such a thing happen? She simply wanted to force Chen Ermiai to death. She broke off the marriage in her last life. What did Chen Ermiai do to her that she had to treat her like this in this life? Chapter 868. Bai Yiqiao let such a rotten person like Li Gozi defile Chen Ermiai. This move was despicable and sinister, but it was very effective. A woman whose reputation was ruined would either die or marry a rapist. It seemed that if he didn't trample Chen Ermiai into the mud, he wouldn't feel at ease. Chen Ermiai was incomparably miserable, as if she would be entangled with Fang Yong. Ning Shu hated Bai Yiqiao in his heart, and Bai Yiqiao hated Ning Shu even more. Even Fang Yong was dissatisfied. Why did Fang Yong help Chen Ermiai? She was Fang Yong's wife now, not Chen Ermiai. Bai Yiqiao was lying on the bed with her back to Fang Yong, silently angry and accusing him. Fang Yong sighed, put his hand on Bai Yiqiao's waist and said, "Don't be angry, why don't you like Chen Ermiai? Chen Ermiai has nothing to do with us. Then why are you helping her?" Bai Yiqiao turned around and said discontentedly, "Chen Ermiai called me a procuress." Fang Yong said, "I'm doing this for you. Sister Chen is an unmarried girl. She is pestered by Li Guzi. In order to avoid losing her reputation, she will bite us. After all, Li Guzi is indeed in our family, which is not good for your reputation. In addition, you said that she and Li Guzi are in love with each other, so Sister Chen is in a bad situation. She is desperate, and I'm afraid that she will hurt you. For her own reputation, she will definitely drag you into the water." Fang Yong said, "I don't want you to be troubled by rumors. Be good, don't be angry." Fang Yong rubbed Bai Yiqiao's soft hair. "If Chen Ermiai goes too far, I won't let her bully you." Bai Yiqiao curled her lips and said, "I hate Chen Ermiai. You're not allowed to talk to Chen Ermiai in the future." Okay, little vinegar jar," Fang Yong said dotingly. Fang Yong kissed Bai Yiqiao's forehead. Bai Yiqiao frowned. Chen Ermiai was always a thorn in her heart. In her previous life, Chen Ermiai enjoyed glory and wealth because of Fang Yong, and was husband and wife with Fang Yong. However, that Chen Ermiai was not a worry-free person, and Li Gozi was also a waste. He couldn't even eat a woman for free. Living a new life, Bai Yiqiao wanted to continue her fate with Fang Yong. She hoped to go to the end with Fang Yong. They were engaged since they were young, and when they grew up, they became husband and wife. In this life, she had to hold on to this man tightly. She didn't want to be like her previous life, where she became someone's concubine. Ning Shu stopped cultivating in the middle of the night. He got out of bed, put on his clothes and shoes, and quietly went to Li Guzi's house. The sky was dark, and there was a round moon in the sky. Occasionally, there were 2 barks of dogs and the croaking of frogs in the fields. Ning Shu walked on the edge of the field. The dew was very heavy. When Ning Shu walked to Li Guzi's house, his skirt and shoes were all wet. Li Guzi's house was very simple and crude. It was a thatched hut. There was basically nothing in the house. The tables and chairs were all missing arms and legs. Ning Shu stepped over the threshold and walked into the house. The house was still leaking, and when he looked up he could see the sky. When Chen Ermiai married Li Guzi, it was like this. There was not even a word of happiness in the house. The room was quiet. Ning Shu walked into the bedroom. There was no one in the room at all. In Ning Shu's expectation, Li Guzi was probably sleeping in some red light district again. Li Guzi was alone. He was full and his family was not hungry. Even if he married Chen Ermiai, he often didn't go home at night. He ate and drank well outside, and then found a place to sleep casually. He called a prostitute when he had nothing to do. When he ran out of money, he came back to look for money. This scum. Not finding anyone, Ningxu turned around and left. When he returned home, he continued to cultivate. There would be a large-scale uprising soon. How could he live without strength and protect his family? Before Fang Yong joined the army, Ningxu must solve Bai Yiqiao first. With Fang Yong's skill in archery, he would definitely stand out in the army. Anyway, this task had nothing to do with Fang Yong. Ningxu naturally wouldn't find trouble with Fang Yong. He would deal with Bai Yiqiao in private. If Fang Yong wanted to avenge Bai Yiqiao, Ningxu would definitely fight back. Ningxu cultivated all night. The next morning before dawn, Mrs. Li woke Ningxu up to do laundry, cook, feed the pigs, feed the chickens, and some other household chores. Old Man Chen and Chun-Li went to the fields. When the sun rose, they came back for breakfast. Anyway, it was the days of facing the yellow soil and the sky. Life was very hard. Moreover, after paying exorbitant taxes on the grain, there was nothing left. The family had to work hard to save food. This year's weather. Old Man Chen sat on the Kong and snorted. He looked worried. It hasn't rained yet. If it continues, we will die. What if we can't pay the grain tax? Old Man Chen was very worried. Right now, the imperial court was rotten and evil officials ran rampant. If they didn't pay the tax, those fierce officials wouldn't be polite. They might be beaten to death. Even if they weren't beaten to death, they would lose half of their life. Anyway, it was very difficult to live. During the autumn harvest, a large-scale peasant uprising broke out. Food was related to the life and death of the people. However, the current imperial court didn't care about the life and death of the people. The burden on the shoulders of the people was too heavy to bear. In order to not starve, it was normal to raise a pole and rebel. Chun-Li said, "Dad, do you want me to go to town to work?" Ningxu glanced at Chun-Li. Chun-Li was just going to do manual labor. He didn't earn much. Ningxu took a bite of the bread and said, "Dad, how much money do we have? Let's go buy some food." It doesn't look like it's going to rain. Food will definitely be expensive. Old Man Chen glanced at Ningxu. Let's wait and see. Maybe it will rain. If they were lucky, they would lose even more. Ningxu knew that she was a girl and didn't have much say in the family. She didn't insist that Old Man Chen take out their savings to buy food. After eating, Ningxu took the initiative to clean up the dishes and clean the table. After cleaning up, Ningxu said to Old Man Chen and Madam Li, "Dad, I want to go to town." Old Man Chen looked at Ningxu, knocked on the pipe, and said, "You should stay at home for a while. Don't run around. You were pestered by Li Guzi, so don't run around. Recently, the town hasn't been peaceful. I heard that many girls have gone missing. You're not allowed to go to town," Old Man Chen said. Living in ancient times was really hard. Moreover, the journey to town wasn't short. It would take a day to go back and forth. Without the permission of her family, Ningxu didn't dare to leave. If she went missing like this, it would affect her reputation too much. Ningxu gave up. She wanted to go to town to buy some herbs, and make some your-own powder masks to sell some money, and buy some food. But she couldn't go. Did she have to go up the mountain to pick herbs? After picking them, she had to wash them or wind them according to their composition. It was very troublesome. Chapter 869. Chun-Li looked at Ningxu and said to Father Chen, "How about I take my sister there?" "You're not allowed to go. If I say you're not allowed to go, then you're not allowed to go," Old Man Chen said impatiently. He was worried about this year's harvest and the livelihood of his family. He was very worried. Chun-Li could only helplessly look at Ningxu. Ningxu smiled and did not speak. Ningxu went out of the house, picked up the bamboo basket, and planned to cut the pigweed. In fact, he was going to the mountain to see if there were any herbs. If he couldn't buy it, he could only go to the mountain to find it. "Second sister, I'll go with you," Chun-Li said to Ningxu and took the basket from Ningxu's hand. "Big brother, don't you go to the field?" Ningxu asked. "What should be done has been done," Chun-Li said. Ningxu nodded, and let Chun-Li carry the bamboo basket while he held the sickle. The grass on the edge of the field was dry because of the drought. Even the water in the stream was muddy like muddy water. The drought was very serious. Ningxu passed by Fang Yang's house. Ningxu heard voices in the yard. It seemed to be the voices of Bai Yiqiao and Fang Yang's mother. It sounded like they were quarreling. Ningxu stopped in her tracks and listened to the voices inside. In the future, don't call those girls and daughters-in-law to the house. Do you know what other people are saying about me now? They say that our house is a chicken coop. This was Fang Yang's mother. Fang Yang's mother was young and widowed. She relied on washing and sewing clothes for people to make a living. She raised Fang Yang alone. Her eyes were also tired. Now the light was a little strong, and she kept crying. Bai Yiqiao said, "Mother-in-law, this is Chun Ermiai talking nonsense and slandering our family. She did something shameful, and wanted to drag our family down. I don't want to care about who is right and who is wrong. Why did that Li Guzi come to the house? Are you a group of people at home? Who knows how Dog Li got into the room?" Bai Yiqiao said, "I've been widowed at a young age, and I've always kept myself clean. Although the Fang family is poor, we can't let our reputation be tarnished. You've only been married for a short while, and you've already caused such a commotion. It's hard to have a good reputation, but it's easy to ruin it." Bai Yiqiao curled her lips and glanced at the tearful Fang Yang's mother. She frowned impatiently and obediently said, "I understand, Grandma." When Ningxu heard these words from outside, he felt that Fang Yang's mother must be someone with a heart and backbone to be able to raise someone like Fang Yang. He was tactful and principled in handling matters. Whenever he had the chance, he would soar into the sky and transform into a dragon when he encountered a storm. Ningxu took the scythe and left. Chunli followed beside Ningxu and said, "Why did Fang Yang's wife say that to you?" "I'm going to argue with her." "What's the use of arguing? If this matter is brought up again, it won't do anyone any good." Ningxu turned to Chun-Li and said, "Let's go up the mountain and see if there's anything to eat. Let's get some wild fruits to eat." Most people who liked to flaunt their words were impetuous and impatient, and it was easy to be caught by others. This matter was diluted like this. If they wanted to take revenge, they had to be in an invincible position. Chun-Li didn't have any objections. He just kept wiping his sweat. The weather was too hot. Seeing Ningxu walk so easily, he couldn't help but ask, "Sister, aren't you tired?" "I'm tired." Ningxu used a branch to poke at the grass. He wanted to see what herbs there were. According to the growth habits of herbs, he ran all over the mountain. Chun-Li followed beside Ningxu. He was so tired that he gasped for breath. He asked, "Second sister, what kind of grass are you looking for?" "It's just some ordinary herbs." "You know about herbs? Don't play around. Go back. If you're late, Father will scold you again. Don't make Father angry these days." Dog Li and the heavenly stems matter made Father in a bad mood, Chun-Li said. Ningxu saw that there were still 2 herbs missing in the basket. He said, "Let's look for more. We'll go back at noon." "Good stuff." Ningxu was surprised to see ginseng. As soon as Ningxu's voice fell, a foot stepped on the ginseng. Ningxu looked up and saw Fang Yong carrying 2 rabbits and a pheasant. Ningxu was speechless. He thought he was lucky to find ginseng, but it turned out to be the strong luck of the male protagonist. Fang Yong didn't expect to meet Chun Ermiai here. Seeing Chun Ermiai looking at him, he asked Chun-Li, "Why did you come to the mountain?" "I came with second sister," Chun-Li said, wiping his sweat. "Can you lift your foot?" Ningxu asked Fang Yong. Fang Yong took a step back. Ningxu saw the crushed ginseng leaf and suddenly felt distressed. Ginseng leaf is also a good thing. Ningxu crawled on the ground, holding the sickle carefully. He dug the ground bit by bit for fear of breaking the roots of the ginseng. Ginseng with intact roots is more valuable. Fang Yong narrowed his eyes. "This is ginseng?" "Second sister, is this really ginseng?" Chun-Li said in surprise. His expression was as if he had found gold. Even Chun-Li, who didn't know about herbs, knew the name of ginseng. Anyway, ginseng is valuable, very valuable. Ningxu did not pay any attention to these 2 people. She was either squatting, kneeling, or lying down. She was very careful and meticulous. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. Chun-Li saw that Ningxu was struggling, so he used his clothes to fan Ningshu. Fang Yong stood aside and waited. After almost an hour, Ningshu finally dug out the ginseng. This ginseng was the size of Ningshu's pinky finger. The roots were dense, and the roots were intact. Ningshu let out a long breath. He was so tired that he almost collapsed. His whole body was tense for more than 2 hours. It was more tiring than fighting. It's really ginseng. That's great. How much would this ginseng sell for? Chun-Li's black face was red with excitement. Fang Yong raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect to dig out a ginseng. Fang Yong looked at Ningshu. If he was alone, he would have missed this ginseng. To be honest, Fang Yong was also greedy for this ginseng. If he had extra income, he could buy something for each xiao, food, clothes, or jewelry. The atmosphere was very silent. Even the simple-minded Chun-Li closed his mouth. There was only one ginseng. How could they divide it? Fang Yong coughed and said, I didn't expect to step on a ginseng. When Ningshu heard Fang Yong say this, he knew that he wanted to get a share. Ningshu carefully wrapped up the ginseng and said to Fang Yong, since it's like this, everyone who saw it will have a share. But no one can say anything. To be able to come across such a thing was basically a windfall. It was a bit of money, but there were a lot of troubles. This was especially true for the people in the village. If there was even the slightest movement in each household, the entire village would know. Fang Yong nodded. This matter is only known by our 2 families. Then how do we divide it? I want 70%. This ginseng was found by me. I dug it out. Ningshu said. Fang Yong pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He was obviously not satisfied with this result. Chapter 870. Ningshu said unhappily. Don't tell me you want to split it equally? What's the difference between this and robbery? Just because the ginseng is under your feet, it's yours. The male lead was so lucky. She ran all over the mountain and didn't see any ginseng. But he stepped on it casually. 70% is too much. Fang Yong said. Ningshu was unhappy. She had already found the ginseng, but Fang Yong stepped on it and wanted to split the money. If it wasn't for the fact that money might be stolen, especially now that the world was in chaos, if there was a ginseng at home, all sorts of people would come out tomorrow. She might even lose her life. If it wasn't for this, Ningshu wouldn't give Fang Yong any. She gave him 30% to shut him up. Fang Yong thought it was too little. 40%, not too much. Otherwise, I'll take the ginseng to the town and offer it to my parents. Ningshu's expression was cold. The parents were the county magistrates. Fang Yong thought about it. Indeed, if it wasn't for Chen Ermiai, this ginseng wouldn't be fated with him. 40% was acceptable. Okay, I'll take 40%. Fang Yong said. Then it's settled. We'll sell this thing later. Ningshu said. Brother and I will leave first. You can leave after we're far away. Fang Yong nodded. Ningshu wrapped the ginseng in a cloth and put it in the basket on her back. She covered it with grass and said to Chun-Li, let's go. Chun-Li carried the bamboo basket and walked very carefully. When they reached home, Ningshu took out the ginseng and told Old Man Chen about splitting the ginseng with the Fang family. When Old Man Chen saw the ginseng, he was so shocked that he jumped up. Some windfalls were fatal. Ningshu said that she and her brother were going to sell the ginseng. Once they sold it, everything would be solved. Otherwise, who would ask for a piece of ginseng today and a ginseng beard tomorrow? Ningshu carried a basket. The basket was filled with the net that Chen Ermiai used to tie. The net covered the ginseng. From the village to the town, they took an ox cart. Fang Yong pretended to be very coincidental, carrying pheasants and rabbits to sell game, and sat in the same ox cart as Ningshu and Chun-Li. Along the way, other people also got on the bus. Ningshu and Fang Yong didn't say a word. As for Chun-Li, he didn't dare to speak. Once he spoke, he would stutter and sweat profusely. Poor people had never seen a treasure like ginseng before. After arriving in town, Ningshu first went to the rouge shop to put on some makeup. He thickened his eyebrows and made some pockmarks on his face. After making a simple disguise, Ningshu went to the medicine shop to sell the ginseng. Ningshu had just stepped into the pharmacy when Fang Yong followed him in, saying that he had been heaty recently and wanted to buy some medicine to clear his heat. From the beginning to the end, she did not talk to Ning Shu. Ning Shu haggled with the shopkeeper of the pharmacy and finally set the price at 200 taels. Ning Shu was not very satisfied with this price. Although the ginseng was fresh, but after being dried, the price would definitely be more than 1,000 taels. Especially in places where the rich and powerful gathered, ginseng would be in high demand. Basically, people would have this kind of medicinal herb at home. But the shopkeeper of the pharmacy only gave 200 taels and did not give more. Ning Shu and Fang Yong glanced at each other. Fang Yong nodded subtly, indicating that he agreed to sell the ginseng for 200 taels. Ning Shu also agreed. 200 taels was also a huge sum of money. With the Chun family's situation, they would not be able to earn so much money in their lifetime. Ning Shu asked for the silver and did not ask for banknotes. Soon, the country would be in chaos, and banknotes would be waste paper. Ning Shu took the heavy bag of silver and left the pharmacy. She was afraid that someone was following her, so she went to the clothing store to buy a new set of clothes. She washed off the makeup on her face and even changed her hairstyle before leaving the clothing store. Ning Shu felt like a mouse that could not be exposed to the light. It was clearly his, but he made it seem like he had stolen it. Living at the bottom of society, the world was chaotic, and people's hearts were not what they used to be. People with a little power could trample on people like him. If he did not pay attention, he would attract a fatal disaster. Ning Shu would rather take more precautions than rely on luck. After secretly giving Fang Yong 80 taels, Ning Shu parted ways with him. Only when he returned to the Chun family did Ning Shu breathe a sigh of relief. He kept 2 silver ingots on him and gave the rest to Old Man Chin. "Father, now that we have money, let's buy some food." Ning Shu's Old Man Chin said, "I heard in town that some places are already in chaos. They say that all the food has dried up and the ground is cracked. This year is a year of drought. I'm afraid it won't rain so easily. When chaos happens, food will be very expensive." Ning Shu said, "Okay, let's go buy some food. With money, many things can be solved." Old Man Chin also agreed to buy food. "Don't buy a lot at once. Buy a little bit," Ning Shu's Old Man Chin said. Old Man Chin took a deep breath of the tobacco and nodded. "I know. Don't show off your wealth." Old Man Chin said to Chun-Li, "You too. Don't talk nonsense." Chun-Li quickly shook his head. "Father, I will definitely not talk nonsense. I definitely won't." Because of digging and selling ginseng, Ning Shu was simply too tired. He said to Madame Li, "Mother, I'm going to take a nap." "Go rest well," Madame Li said. Ning Shu fell on the bed to rest. When he was in a daze, he was awakened by someone. He opened his eyes and saw Madame Li. He sat up and asked, "Mother, what's wrong?" Madame Li's complexion was a little bad. She said, "Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao are here." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "What are they doing here?" Ning Shu knew in his heart that they were here for the money from selling ginseng. Ning Shu put on his shoes and went to the central room. He saw Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao's face was white and red. She was wearing a clean skirt. Her whole person was very beautiful. She made the dark and bitter Chen family members in the room look even more rustic and sad. To be honest, Bai Yiqiao and Fang Yong were a good match. Fang Yong was heroic and powerful. Bai Yiqiao was charming and lovely. These two people didn't look like people who dug for food in the soil. To put it simply, the male and female lead had an extraordinary temperament. At first glance, one could tell that they were not ignorant and unruly people. Ning Shu stepped over the threshold and entered the central room. He asked Fang Yong, "What's the matter? Is the silver I gave you short?" Bai Yiqiao said, "The distribution of the ginseng's money is unreasonable. It should be 50-50. Ning Shu smiled. "If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have gotten a single copper coin. Don't be greedy." "I already found out at the time, but Fang Yong stepped on it." Ning Shu said, "Don't make a fuss about this matter. It's not good for you to make a fuss about it." "If you want to make a fuss, I can't help it. No one will have a good time," Ning Shu said coldly. Bai Yiqiao's expression was not worried. Every time she saw Chen Ermiai, She had an unspeakable disgust and fear in her heart. She was afraid that fate would make Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai become husband and wife like in her previous life. Chapter 871. Ning Shu didn't know what kind of face Bai Yiqiao had to come over to make trouble. She even wanted to split it equally. Split your sister, dream on. Ning Shu directly asked Fang Yong. What, are you not satisfied with the distribution method? What do you want us women to say? What did you say to Fang Yong? Bai Yiqiao said with dissatisfaction. Ning Shu. She couldn't even talk to Fang Yong? The distribution method was decided by me, my brother, and Fang Yong. Ning Shu sneered. You don't know anything, what are you making a fuss about? Bai Yiqiao pursed her lips, took a deep breath, and finally said gently. Chen Ermiai, can we talk calmly? Mocking each other like this won't solve the problem. Ning Shu also said gently. You see, you're not here to solve the problem. You're here to collect the debt. The Chen family owes you. You're always the one who's weird. Bai Yiqiao suppressed her annoyance and calmly said, I just feel that this distribution method is unfair. Your husband agreed to this distribution method, and now you're here to make trouble. Where do you put your husband? Is it fair to give you all the money? Ning Shu said calmly. Bai Yiqiao was shocked by Ning Shu's words. She was just angry at the Chen family for giving so much money to Chen Ermiai, and suspected that Fang Yong deliberately gave Chen Ermiai so much money. But now what was she doing? She actually took the initiative to find an opportunity for Chen Ermiai and Fang Yong to get along and talk. She had always been avoiding repeating the same mistakes and letting Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai continue their previous life's fate. In her previous life, when she was a concubine, she was careful not to be attacked by the mistress of the house. She even had to let a man come to her room. It could be said that she had endured to the extreme. In her previous life, Bai Yiqiao was proud and arrogant, so she became a concubine of the young master of a large family. She suffered a lot before she learned to be obedient, and in the end, she was still cleaned up by the mistress of the house. In this life she married Fang Yong. Fang Yong was a man who was responsible and tenacious. He also doted on her a lot, which made Bai Yiqiao relax a lot. After all, she was the wife, and her husband was with her every night. Bai Yiqiao felt that she should look further into the future. In the future, Fang Yong would have a high position, and there would definitely be other things. What Bai Yiqiao wanted was a pair of old hairs that would never leave each other. In her previous life, she had suffered enough of being a concubine, and the pain of snatching men from other women. In this life, she didn't want to live that kind of life anymore. Actually, she did have some money on her. She had earned it from a business partnership with others. She ran a restaurant with foreign characteristics, such as barbecued meat and hot pot. It was novel and tasty. Moreover, what she did was a disgrace to the man. Where did my ability to observe people's expressions go? Bai Yiqiao finally figured it out. The main reason was because she was related to Chen Ermiai. Her heart couldn't help but panic, causing her to lose her usual calmness. No one could remain calm in front of their husband's previous life's wife, at least Bai Yiqiao couldn't. Especially after she got married. She found that Fang Yong was much more responsible than the oily and powder-faced young master in her previous life. In addition, she knew that Fang Yong would have a bright future, so she naturally fell in love with Fang Yong. The more she cared, the more she was afraid of losing him. Bai Yiqiao was afraid that there was some fate between Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai. Bai Yiqiao glanced at Fang Yong. Fang Yong's expression was normal, and she didn't know if he was angry or not. Ning Shu said, since Fang Yong said it, naturally it will be distributed like this. The Fang family is all decided by Fang Yong. Fang Yong smiled at Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was a little proud in her heart. Men were all people who loved face. If she gave a man enough face and satisfied a man's face, everything would be easy to say. Then we'll disturb you. We'll be leaving first. Bai Yiqiao said. Ning Shu. Seeing Bai Yiqiao's appearance for a while, she was simply crazy. She quickly changed her attitude, causing Ning Shu to be a little confused. He immediately understood that Bai Yiqiao was doing this for Fang Yong to see. Ning Shu laughed in his heart. That's why Bai Yiqiao couldn't get rid of the pettiness of being a concubine. She used her own concubine method to deal with men. A real husband and wife would discuss and respect each other equally. However, in ancient times, this was obviously impossible. However, this method allowed Bai Yiqiao to reap a lot of benefits. In addition, there were several men later on, and they were all men with high status and power who liked her, increasing her competitiveness and advantages. Things that were snatched by others were good things. It really allowed Fang Yong to dote on her for the rest of her life and never take in a concubine. Fang Yong stood up and handed the 2 pheasants in his hands to Chen Li. He said, "This is the game I caught today. I'll let you have a taste of it. During this period of time, we've been a little unhappy. We're all neighbors, so we'll see each other often. Sometimes, we even need to help each other." Chen Li looked at the 2 pheasants and didn't know whether he should take them or not. He couldn't help but look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded his head unknowingly. "I got dozens of tails for free. Eating 2 of your chickens is considered cheap." Chen Li took the pheasant with a smile and said, "It's okay. It's normal for neighbors to have some conflicts. Thank you for your chicken." Ning Shu was speechless. Fang Yong got 80 tails for free. Even if he hunted all the pheasants on the mountain, he wouldn't be able to sell them for so much money. Fang Yong knew how to conduct himself. He knew how to advance and retreat. Whether he came to the Chen family for money or not, he could handle it well. Sure enough, success was not accidental. Fang Yong was able to succeed in the end. In addition to excellent hardware conditions, wisdom was also essential to success. He had to know how to conduct himself. To be honest, Fang Yong was a man worthy of a woman's lifelong commitment. That was why Bai Yiqiao thought of ways to deal with Chen Ermiai. Father Chen knocked his pipe on the table and said to Fang Yong, "Fang Yong, this matter is only known to our 2 families. Don't spread it out." "Uncle Chen, I know. Don't worry." Fang Yong nodded and said. After Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao left, Ning Shu sighed. According to Ning Shu's idea, the ginseng was not given to Fang Yong at all. However, Fang Yong appeared at that time. He should take the money. If he didn't give it to him, he was afraid that there would be a disaster. Damn thieving god. He was using his own hands to give money to Fang Yong. The autumn harvest was coming soon. The riots in various places were becoming more and more frequent. With this money, when Fang Yong joined the army, he would be able to bribe people. He remembered that before Fang Yong joined the army, he had hunted a white tiger. The tiger's skin and bones made him earn a lot of money. Forget it. Although his heart was stifled, he would just treat it as his hard work in digging up the ginseng. "Second sister, do you think this pheasant should be stewed or braised?" Chen Li said to Ning Shu while carrying 2 chickens. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Look at your stupid appearance. It's just 2 chickens. How cheap is that?" "One braised, the other stewed," Ning Shu said. Madam Li said, "Both stewed. Your father's teeth are not very good." "Well, both stewed." Chen Li went to kill the chickens. Chapter 872. The weather was getting hotter and hotter. There were no clouds in the clear sky. Old Man Chen was still hoping for rain to make the seedlings grow. But the field was so dry that it was about to crack. Old Man Chen no longer held a fluke heart and used money to buy food. At this time, the price of food was 10% higher than before. Because of the riots, food was very scarce. Old Man Chen regretted it. It was not that Old Man Chen, who had lived half his life, was stupid, but the poor people were reluctant to spend the little money in their hands, let alone buy food. Ning Shu would occasionally follow them to the town. Because of the ginseng, Ning Shu had a little right to speak at home. Old Man Chen also allowed Ning Shu to make requests that were not too outrageous. Occasionally, he would meet Bai Yiqiao, who went to the town together. When Bai Yiqiao saw Ning Shu, her expression was indifferent and she did not speak. She was extremely cold to Ning Shu. Ning Shu did not care about Bai Yiqiao at all. He did what he should do. Only occasionally, when he went to Li Guzi's house at night, Li Guzi was not at home. He did not know where he went. Ning Shu suspected that Li Guzi had been dealt with. Ning Shu glanced at Bai Yiqiao in the same carriage. It should not be Bai Yiqiao's doing. Bai Yiqiao had always wanted to pair her with Li Guzi. Bai Yiqiao looked at Chen Ermiai opposite her. Seeing her calm appearance, Bai Yiqiao's heart had an unspeakable uneasiness and fear. Bai Yiqiao glanced at Chen Ermiai's clothes. There were no colorful clothes. The fabric was old. There was no jewelry on her body. Her skin was a little dark. She was not very beautiful. Why did she let Fang Yong treat her well in her previous life? She remembered Chen Ermiai in her previous life. She was wearing a gorgeous noble dress. She had a complicated bun with various hairpins. She was indescribably luxurious. It was like a fishbone stuck in her throat. She would not be happy if she did not spit it out. Just like that, they went their separate ways when they arrived at the town. Ning Shu went to the pharmacy in the town and bought some medicine and silver needles. After the disaster, there would be a pandemic. If something happened, he would not panic. Since it was a counterattack, they couldn't lose their lives in this chaotic world. Ning Shu exchanged the silver in his hands for supplies such as cotton, cloth, or even food. When chaos broke out, even an ingot of gold might not be able to buy a steamed bun. Even though Chen Ermiai enjoyed a high position and wealth later on, she suffered a lot. Back then, Fang Yong had joined the army and joined the rebel army. To the imperial court, he was a rebel, a traitor. There would definitely be officials who wanted to capture the traitor's family. Chen Ermiai was pregnant. She took Fang Yong's mother, who was too old to see, and fled to find Fang Yong. Halfway there, Fang Yong's mother died. In order to prevent Fang Yong's mother from dying, Chen Ermiai cremated Fang Yong's mother and took her ashes to find Fang Yong. In this chaotic world, in order to fill one's stomach, in order to survive, anything can be done. Especially a woman with a child is a moving granary. Maybe she will be killed by crazy people to eat meat and drink blood. Chen Ermiai wanted to protect herself and her child, but also to protect her chastity. Chen Ermiai's suffering was unimaginable. Bai Yiqiao only saw Chen Ermiai enjoying a high position and wealth because of Fang Yong, but she didn't expect Chen Ermiai to suffer. Chen Ermiai's family was implicated because of this. They had to pay double the grain tax to solve this matter, but the Chen family was really poor. They didn't even have a place to eat. If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. At that time, Bai Yiqiao was just because Fang Yong's family conditions were not good, and he was a man who hunted for a living. He was not worthy of her, so she broke her promise. When Fang Yong became famous and saw Chen Ermiai in brocade clothes, she felt that Chen Ermiai robbed her things. Chen Ermiai picked up a bargain. However, when the reborn Bai Yiqiao became Fang Yong's wife, she did not suffer such pain, the pain of fleeing. Different people have different lives. Ning Shu helplessly spread out his hands. He could only attribute it to the protagonist aura. The reborn Bai Yiqiao did everything smoothly. She had money to deal with the government. Ning Shu came out of the pharmacy and met Li Guzi on the street. Li Guzi was dressed like a dog. He even held a folding fan, which was neither fish nor fowl. He was like a monkey wearing clothes. This guy was looking at the door of the brothel. Ning Shu saw a money bag hanging on his waist, which seemed to have some weight. No wonder he didn't go home recently. It turned out that he had money on him. He didn't know where he got the money. Ning Shu lowered his head and passed by Li Guzi. He reached out and took Li Guzi's money bag. Just then, a girl from the brothel pulled Li Guzi into the building. Li Guzi smiled wretchedly and entered the building. He didn't notice that his money bag had been stolen. Ning Shu put the money bag in the basket and covered it with a cloth. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at the brothel's signboard. He turned and went back to the pharmacy. He grabbed some herbs and prepared them for Li Guzi. He definitely couldn't let Li Guzi off easily. He used Li Guzi's money to buy medicine to deal with Li Guzi. After buying the medicine, Ning Shu went to the restaurant that Bai Yiqiao had opened with others. The restaurant was called Ji Xiangju. The decoration was very stylish. Ning Shu walked in and smelled a spicy smell. There were many guests in the hall of the restaurant, not to mention the private rooms above. A waiter came up to greet Ning Shu. "What would you like to order?" Ning Shu looked at the bamboo menu hanging on the wall. "Give me 3 portions of barbecue and 5 portions of vegetables. I want to take it away." "Okay." Ning Shu wanted to have a taste of the restaurant run by Bai Yiqiao, and at the same time estimate the business situation of the restaurant. It seemed that the business was good. No wonder they could open a branch and donate food and clothes to the uprising army. It was because they knew that the uprising army would succeed in destroying the dynasty. They invested early and unexpectedly obtained the favor of the leader of the uprising army, the future emperor. However, they couldn't steal the wife of an official, but they were very fond of Bai Yiqiao. This cheat was really Ningxu was waiting for the barbecue to be done when he heard Bai Yiqiao's voice. Chen Ermiai? Ningxu turned and saw Bai Yiqiao coming down the stairs. He was dazed for a moment and felt that Bai Yiqiao was really good looking. Are you here to eat? Bai Yiqiao walked in front of Ningxu and asked. Ningxu nodded. Yes, I've heard of Ji Xiangju's name for a long time. I'm here to try it and bring some back for my parents to try. Hearing Ningxu's words, Bai Yiqiao's eyebrows flashed with a pleased look. The idea of opening a restaurant came from her previous life, when she tasted the food of the nomads in a large family. Coupled with all kinds of spices, it was satisfying and delicious. Only in this life did she want to open a restaurant. Chen Ermiai didn't even know that this restaurant was hers. Guest, here are your takeout dishes. The waiter brought the dishes over. Ningxu was just about to pay when Bai Yiqiao said, Put this bill on my head. Chen Ermiai, treat it as my treat. Chapter 873. Bai Yiqiao. Ningxu was a little surprised. Bai Yiqiao actually wanted to pay the bill for him and treat him to a meal. The sun must have risen from the west. Ningxu refused. That's not very good. I'll pay for it myself. Ningxu put the money on the counter. Bai Yiqiao saw the copper coins on the counter, and a look of contempt flashed between her eyebrows. She picked up the copper coins and pulled Ningxu's hand. She put the copper coins in Ningxu's hand. I said I'll treat you, so I'll treat you. You don't have to be polite. I know the owner of this restaurant. Ningxu. Oh, so he was just pretending. The invisible pretentiousness was the most fatal. He was clearly the owner of this restaurant. Ningxu put away the money and put the vegetables in the basket. He said to Bai Yiqiao, Thank you. No need. Bai Yiqiao's face was rosy. This feeling of giving alms from a condescending position was really cool. Bai Yiqiao felt that she had washed away the humiliation of Chen Ermiai, throwing copper coins into her bowl in her previous life. Ningxu suddenly said, Are you the only one who came to town? Why didn't Fang Yong come with you? Bai Yiqiao's expression immediately became vigilant. Half vigilant and half showing off, she said, Brother Yong found a white tiger in the mountains and planned to kill it. White tiger? Not only could the tiger skin and bones be sold for money, but it could also raise Fang Yong's status. When he entered the army, he would be able to kill a tiger. A real man, when Fang Yong flew to the top, it would be another story. Ningxu took the things and left. Bai Yiqiao looked at Ningxu's back. She was really worried. Even if Chen Ermiai casually mentioned Fang Yong, Bai Yiqiao felt that there was something wrong. Bai Yiqiao said to the waiter, I'll go first. Tell Wen Yu. Wen Yu was the son of a merchant family in town. He and Bai Yiqiao had opened this restaurant together. Bai Yiqiao didn't want to be in town. Chen Ermiai had stolen her husband from the village. Ningxu went out of the city and arrived at the place where the ox cart was parked. Chun-Li was carrying a bag of grain, which was some coarse grain. As soon as Ningxu got on the ox cart, Bai Yiqiao hurriedly ran over and sat on the ox cart, gasping for breath. The ox cart moved slowly. Bai Yiqiao looked at Ningxu and pretended to ask inadvertently, Chen Ermiai, you seem to be 15 years old. Did your family talk about marriage for you? Before Ningxu could say anything, Chun-Li said, Father said to wait until second sister is 16. Bai Yiqiao made an O sound and asked again. Then Chen Ermiai, what kind of future husband do you want? Ningxu wanted to provoke Bai Yiqiao and say that he wanted Fang Yong's type, but he thought that he wouldn't be able to win in a short period of time. If word got out, his reputation wouldn't be good. In this era where reputation was greater than the heavens and chastity could crush people to death, one had to consider one's family, clan, and even one's own relatives could not tolerate a person whose reputation was damaged, let alone others. It was tough being a woman. To be honest, it was nothing if the world was destroyed. Ningxu said, Parents' orders, matchmakers' words. Bai Yiqiao nodded and didn't speak. She turned to look at the roadside scenery. Ning Shu returned home, took out the medicinal materials he bought, and slowly ground them into powder. There was no machine to beat powder in ancient times, so the powder was a little coarse. If it didn't work, he would force it to Li Guzi. In the evening, Li Guzi, who had no money, finally went home. When he came back, he had wounds on his body. Obviously, he went to the brothel without money and was beaten up. Not only was he beaten up, but he was also forced to press a usury fingerprint. Otherwise, he couldn't get out of the brothel. Moreover, the time for repayment was stipulated. If he didn't pay back the money, his hands and feet would be cut off. Li Guzi was bitter in his heart. He had money, but his money bag was gone. Which bastard stole his money? His eyes were rotten. Li Guzi, who was beaten black and blue, went home and lay on the bed groaning. In the middle of the night, Ning Shu took the powder to Li Guzi's home, and saw that Li Guzi was sleeping like a dead pig. There was not even an oil lamp in the room. Ning Shu scooped some water from the water tank in the kitchen, and poured the powder into a bowl. Then he waited for the big medicine particles to settle down, and poured them into another bowl. Ning Shu carried the bowl into the room quietly, and put the bowl on the bedside. Then he went out of the room and looked at Li Guzi from the window outside. He was afraid that Li Guzi would not drink water. Ning Shu took out the powder and lit it with a fire starter. The powder of the medicinal materials was a little moist, and gave off a thick smoke. Ning Shu covered his nose with a handkerchief and fanned the smoke into the room. When it was almost done, he quickly put it out. At night, the sparks were very conspicuous. Although they were all asleep, someone might get up at night and see it. Living in such an era, one must be very vigilant. Ning Shu waited outside. Li Guzi began to toss and turn on the bed. Finally, he sat up from the bed. Li Guzi felt that his mouth was dry. He was ready to get up and drink water. He vaguely saw a bowl on the bedside. He took a sip and then drank it. After drinking, Li Guzi lay down and went back to sleep. But this time he couldn't fall asleep. Li Guzi felt hot and sweaty all over. He got up and went out of the room to blow the wind. Li Guzi sighed deeply. The loan sharks pressed him. If he didn't have money, they would chop off his hands and feet. Li Guzi was scared to death, and it was very painful to cut off his hands and feet. Usually, Li Guzi would cry for a long time if he scratched his oily skin. Li Guzi wiped his sweat, and decided to go to Bai Yiqiao to help her. Last time he gave her money. This time, he had to solve this problem for her. Li Guzi went to Fang Yong's house in the dark. Ning Shu followed behind Li Guzi. When he saw Li Guzi near Fang Yong's house, he learned to bark 3 times. Bai Yiqiao woke up when she heard the dog bark. She was stunned for a moment with a puzzled expression. Then she heard 3 more dog barks and gently sat up from the bed. Fang Yong was a light sleeper and very alert person. Even if Bai Yiqiao's movements were light, she still woke up Fang Yong. "What's the matter?" Fang Yong asked Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao said softly, "It's okay. I'm a little uncomfortable in my stomach. Get up and go to the toilet. Go back to sleep." Fang Yong asked, "Do you want me to accompany you to the toilet?" "No need." Bai Yiqiao went out of the room, closed the door, walked out of the yard, and looked around. "Sister Bai." Li Guzi suddenly appeared, startling Bai Yiqiao. He lowered his voice and said, "What are you doing?" "Sister Bai, you have to help me this time. Last time, I helped you deal with Chen Ermiai." Li Guzi said to Bai Yiqiao. "You still have the nerve to say that. You didn't tarnish Chen Ermiai at all. You slept in the house and you still dare to mention this matter. I'm going to be implicated to death by you." Bai Yiqiao was extremely angry. That is, it's Fang Yong now. If it was that greasy-faced young master of a big family with a man at home, she would have been drowned in a pig cage and cleaned up by the mistress of the house. This matter could be considered a stain. She didn't know if Fang Yong really didn't care. Bai Yiqiao was afraid that it was a thorn in Fang Yong's heart. She didn't know when it would explode. Chapter 874. The most unbearable thing for a man was to be cuckolded by his own woman. Bai Yiqiao didn't want to live a life of estrangement with Fang Yong because of this matter, otherwise, she would be sorry for her rebirth. Bai Yiqiao was very tired of the trash Li Guzi. She lowered her voice and said, Don't come to me in the future. You can't do anything well. Li Guzi was afraid that Bai Yiqiao really didn't care about him. He couldn't pay back so much money. He anxiously refuted. I don't want to, but Chen Ermiai, that dead woman, actually ran away. Ningshu hid in the dark. Although he knew in advance that this matter was planned by Bai Yiqiao and Li Guzi, he couldn't suppress his inner anger when he heard it with his own ears. Ningshu tried to suppress the murderous aura in his heart. This place was not far from the Fang family. Fang Yong mixed in the mountains and forests, and was very sensitive to murderous aura. Li Guzi and Bai Yiqiao were afraid that Fang Yong would find out. Ningshu also didn't want Fang Yong to find out. Sister Bai, you can't ignore me. When Li Guzi was anxious, his body was sweating and he was very hot. When he smelled the fragrance of Bai Yiqiao's body, his body became more and more hot. Li Guzi swallowed his saliva and said in a hoarse voice, Can you give me 100 taels? How much? Bai Yiqiao almost cried out. 100 taels, dream on. Li Guzi felt that his body was getting hotter and hotter. Smelling the woman's smell on Bai Yiqiao's body, warm blood flowed out of his nose. I was pressed with a usury handprint. If I don't pay it back, my hands and feet will be cut off. You won't leave me to die, right? Li Guzi said anxiously. Bai Yiqiao said coldly. It's none of my business. You a trash, dare to ask for 100 taels. You think you have everything? Li Guzi was very anxious. If you don't help me, I will spread the news that you want to hurt Chen Ermiai everywhere. You will find me to defile Chen Ermiai, and say that you will make Chen Ermiai my wife. You said that as long as I defile Chen Ermiai will be my wife. You are a bad woman, a black-hearted bad woman. Li Guzi threatened. Bai Yiqiao was not threatened by Li Guzi at all. She said unhurriedly. Then you go and say it. Let's see who is unlucky. Fang Yong will beat you to death. Thinking of Fang Yong's fist on his body, Guzi Li's body trembled. He was afraid of Fang Yong because Fang Yong was a man who could kill wild beasts. Bai Yiqiao turns around and is going back. After a long time, Fang Yong will doubt it. If Fang Yong finds out that she and Li Guzi meet in the middle of the night, something will definitely happen. No matter how much Fang Yong loves her, he will be angry. Seeing that Bai Yiqiao was about to leave, Li Guzi hurriedly grabbed Bai Yiqiao's arm. Feeling the smooth skin through the clothes, Li Guzi's heart swayed, and even his lower abdomen tightened. Who do you think you are? How dare you touch me? When Dog Li touched her body, Bai Yiqiao's eyebrows immediately stood up, as if she had stepped on dog shit with a disgusting expression. Li Guzi was worried that he couldn't pay the loan sharks, so he asked Bai Yiqiao for money. Bai Yiqiao was incomparably heartless. Li Guzi's heart was filled with hostility. In addition, his body was so tense that he felt uncomfortable. He wanted to sleep with this incomparably arrogant woman. Even if he had to die, he would be a romantic ghost. Moreover, he slept with Fang Yong's woman, so he could take revenge on Fang Yong. Li Guzi was so angry that he covered Bai Yiqiao's mouth and dragged Bai Yiqiao to the cornfield not far away. Bai Yiqiao was terrified, but her mouth was covered by Li Guzi. There was no way to call for help. Under the stimulation of the desire, Li Guzi's strength was surprisingly great. Li Guzi looked at the woman under him. His vanity was high, and he smelled her body intoxicatingly. Bai Yiqiao's face was pale, and her heart was filled with despair. After her rebirth, was she going to be defiled by a rotten person like Li Guzi? And her happy life, and Fang Yong's happy life? Bai Yiqiao couldn't help but struggle, but Bai Yiqiao was not a strong farm woman. Her delicate body was easy to push down, and her waist was soft as if there was no bone. There was no way to break free. Li Guzi directly took off Bai Yiqiao's pants, and regardless of Bai Yiqiao's discomfort, he went straight to the point. After Li Guzi entered her body, Bai Yiqiao was stunned, as if her soul had left her body. Bai Yiqiao felt that her world had collapsed, and the beautiful life she had imagined in her mind was instantly shattered. Although Bai Yiqiao was reborn, she was a genuine ancient person. The reputation of chastity was deep in her bones. It was impossible to imagine what would happen if Fang Yong knew about it. Would she be raped in a pig cage? The most important thing was Fang Yong. Fang Yong's heroic appearance in his previous life was deeply engraved in her mind. She wanted to be the person beside Fang Yong. She wanted to stand beside Fang Yong, until Fang Yong reached the peak of life. Bai Yiqiao was like a soulless wood. Her eyes were shedding tears. Li Guzi was shaking on Bai Yiqiao's body. He was probably too excited, and soon told her. Bai Yiqiao was disgusted and wanted to vomit. Li Guzi's bad breath made her want to die. For a moment, Bai Yiqiao wanted to bite her tongue and commit suicide. She was extremely disheartened. This was the result of her rebirth. She was on guard against Chen Ermiai. But she didn't expect that she would fall in the hands of a rotten person like Pai Lupi Dog. She never cared about Li Guzi. How dare Li Guzi, how dare he? Ning Shu hid in the darkness and just watched indifferently. The feeling of being defiled by Pai Lupi Dog was not good. Only when it happened to himself did he know how devastating and desperate it was. Bai Yiqiao, who was like a bright moon in the sky, was defiled by Li Guzi, who was like smelly mud on the ground. Fang Yong, who was sleeping lightly in the room, was awakened. Seeing that Bai Yiqiao hadn't come back yet, he opened the door to look for her. Yiqiao. Fang Yong shouted in a low voice. Li Guzi originally wanted to do it again, but when he heard Fang Yong's voice, his body suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Although he said that he wanted to take revenge on Fang Yong, when he really faced Fang Yong, Li Guzi suddenly became terrified. He was very scared. Li Guzi picked up his pants, bent over and ran away. Fang Yong went to the toilet to find Bai Yiqiao. When Bai Yiqiao heard Fang Yong's voice, her whole body shivered. She was now in such a disheveled state with mud on her clothes. How could she appear in front of Fang Yong? Bai Yiqiao tried to calm herself down. She quickly thought of a countermeasure and put on her pants. Bai Yiqiao hardened her heart and twisted her foot. Suddenly, there was a slight sound of bones cracking. Bai Yiqiao groaned in pain, and then dragged her painful ankle into a stream next to the house. Now it was a dry time. There was not much water in the stream, and it was very muddy. Bai Yiqiao's body was covered with mud. She was in a sorry state and couldn't get up. Fang Yong, Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao shouted weakly. I'm here, Fang Yong, save me. Chapter 875. Fang Yong heard Bai Yiqiao's voice and saw that Bai Yiqiao was in the ditch. He quickly slid down and pulled Bai Yiqiao. My feet hurt, Bai Yiqiao said in a nasal voice. Fang Yong picked up Bai Yiqiao and carried her ashore. He walked towards the house. Suddenly, Fang Yong stopped. Bai Yiqiao's heart trembled. She asked in a trembling voice, What's wrong? Fang Yong frowned and said uncertainly, I feel like someone is watching us. How is that possible? Bai Yiqiao thought that Fang Yong was talking about Li Guzi, and immediately said pitifully, How could there be someone in the middle of the night? Fang Yong, my feet hurt. Fang Yong shook his head. He only thought that it was an illusion. He carried Bai Yiqiao back to the house, and then went to boil water for her to take a bath. Bai Yiqiao looked at the busy Fang Yong and bit her lips tightly. Her tears couldn't stop flowing. Why are you crying? Fang Yong saw that her eyes were red. Bai Yiqiao wiped her tears, but her hands and face were covered in mud. My feet hurt. It must be dislocated. After taking a bath, I'll fix it for you. It definitely won't hurt. Fang Yong comforted Bai Yiqiao. How did you fall into the ditch? Bai Yiqiao had already thought of an excuse. My legs were numb from squatting. It was dark and I was so sleepy that I couldn't even open my eyes. So I stepped into the ditch. You. Fang Yong said helplessly. Bai Yiqiao looked at Fang Yong. Her heart was filled with hatred. No one could destroy her happiness. She had been reborn once. She shouldn't be like this. She shouldn't be discredited and despised by Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao clenched her fists tightly. At least she had passed this stage. Ning Shu looked at the dazzling development of the situation and laughed silently. It seemed that Bai Yiqiao wanted to keep this matter a secret. However, Li Guzi was a disgusting blood-sucking bug. Once he attached himself to someone, he would suck their blood dry unless he killed Li Guzi. Ning Shu tiptoed back home. She didn't cultivate. Instead, she lay on the bed and slept soundly. Bai Yiqiao, who had been washed clean, couldn't see that she had been violated at all. All traces had been washed away. Bai Yiqiao looked at the man who was comforting her. She would not say such a thing even if she died. Li Guzi ran back to his shabby home and lay on the bed, panting heavily. He didn't expect that he would be able to sleep with Bai Yiqiao. It felt really good. Li Guzi's brain turned. He felt that he had found a chance to pay back the money. If he threatened Bai Yiqiao with this matter, he might be able to get 100 taels. The next morning, Li Guzi went to the door of the Fong family and wandered around. Seeing that the Fong family was calm, he knew that Bai Yiqiao, this cunning woman, had hidden what happened last night. Li Guzi felt that he had caught Bai Yiqiao's weakness. Why are you wandering around? Believe it or not, I will break your legs. Fong Yong saw Li Guzi wandering around the door, so he immediately said fiercely. Li Guzi's body shrunk a little, but when he thought about how he slept with Fong Yong's woman last night, Li Guzi suddenly laughed wretchedly. Li Guzi suddenly felt refreshed. The feeling of getting first place in the imperial examination was just like this. Fong Yong saw Li Guzi's wretched and inexplicably complacent smile. He couldn't help but frown and pick up the wooden stick at the foot of the wall. Li Guzi immediately ran far away with a grin. His figure jumped up and down as if he had lost his mind. Fong Yong walked into the room with a sullen face. Bai Yiqiao's heart suddenly thumped. After what happened yesterday, Bai Yiqiao's heart was particularly sensitive. She was very concerned about Fong Yong's mood. What's the matter? Bai Yiqiao stood up. Although Fong Yong set her bones last night, it still hurt. When she stood up, her body swayed a little. Fong Yong helped her sit down and said, "It's the idol Li Guzi. He wandered around early in the morning." As soon as she heard Li Guzi's name, Bai Yiqiao was so shocked that she almost jumped up from her chair. Her heart was pounding, and her voice was trembling. Did he say anything? No, I will beat this guy every time I see him in the future. Fong Yong said. You should also talk to him less. Bai Yiqiao felt as if thousands of arrows were piercing her heart, and it was going to turn her heart into a ball of meat paste. How could her rebirth life be so tragic? Then what was the meaning of her rebirth? Bai Yiqiao clenched her fists tightly. Her whole body was cold, and she couldn't stop trembling. Fong Yong was going to go into the mountain, but seeing Bai Yiqiao like this, he didn't go. Bai Yiqiao said gently, I'm fine. You can come back early at noon. Bai Yiqiao was really afraid that she couldn't control her emotions. Fong Yong nodded and left with his hunting tools. As soon as Fong Yong left, Bai Yiqiao hammered her heart and cried silently with her mouth wide open. After crying, Bai Yiqiao took out a banknote from the box in the wardrobe. This banknote was worth 100 taels of silver. Fong Yong left, and Li Guzi wandered around the gate of Fong Yong's house. Bai Yiqiao saw Li Guzi and ignored him. She went to the village entrance and took an ox cart to the town. Li Guzi hesitated for a moment and followed her to the town. When she arrived at the town, Bai Yiqiao circled around to a remote place. Li Guzi followed behind Bai Yiqiao. Wait for me, Li Guzi said casually. When he walked into Bai Yiqiao, he stretched out his hand and touched Bai Yiqiao's face. Bai Yiqiao's face was cold, and she slapped the back of Li Guzi's hand heavily. Li Guzi hissed and couldn't help but say, so cruel. Last night we were so loving. If you want to talk about what happened last night, I'll kill you, Bai Yiqiao said gloomily. Li Guzi said indifferently, it's okay if you don't want me to say it, but if my hands and feet are cut off and I can't live, I can't guarantee that I won't say anything. Shameless. Bai Yiqiao trembled with anger. Bai Yiqiao didn't regret provoking Li Guzi. She only hated that Chen Ermiai had escaped. Li Guzi was the husband she found for Chen Ermiai. Of course, the worse the better. But now this pile of mud was sticking to her body. Bai Yiqiao hated Chen Ermiai even more. Take it. Bai Yiqiao threw the silver note to Li Guzi and threatened. If you take the money, be honest. If you dare to tell me about what happened last night, I will never let you go. Li Guzi picked up the silver note, and his eyes suddenly lit up. But he couldn't read. He licked his face and asked Bai Yiqiao, how much is this? Is this silver note real? You'd better give me the silver. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. The blue veins on her forehead were jumping. She said in a fierce voice, 100 taels. Li Guzi was suddenly enraptured. He put away the silver note and stretched out his hand to touch Bai Yiqiao's hand. Bai Yiqiao gave Li Guzi a slap. Get out of here. If you touch my finger again, I'll let you take the consequences. Li Guzi covered his face and looked at Bai Yiqiao's red face. He immediately pressed her against the wall. I've done it once. What does it matter if I do it again? Anyway, Fang Yong is wearing a green hat. Chapter 876. Bai Yiqiao was pressed against the wall by Li Guzi. She smelled the disgusting smell on Guzi's body, and his sweat fermented the disgusting smell. When he spoke to her, he revealed a mouthful of big yellow teeth with vegetable leaves and shredded meat on them. Bai Yiqiao felt that her eyes were going blind. Thinking that she had been defiled by such a person and that disgusting thing had entered her body, Bai Yiqiao wished she could kill Li Guzi. Now that Li Guzi wanted to defile her, Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her whole body trembled and her eyes were red. Get out of here. If you dare to be disrespectful to me, I will kill you. Bai Yiqiao pushed Li Guzi away and was about to leave. Li Guzi stopped in front of Bai Yiqiao and said wretchedly, "Give me one more time, or I will tell everyone that you are having an affair with me. If you dare, I will really kill you." Bai Yiqiao said coldly, "Don't be like this. A night of husband and wife is 100 days of grace." Li Guzi said shamelessly, "We are also considered a wild couple. Last night was too dark, and he was too excited to enjoy it." Now that Li Guzi saw Bai Yiqiao's delicate face, his heart was ready to move. Li Guzi raised the banknotes in his hand. "Believe it or not, I will tell everyone that you gave me money to find a wild man." Bai Yiqiao was so angry that she was stunned. She never thought that there would be such a shameless person in the world. Bai Yiqiao's heart was filled with hatred. Why was she defiled by this dog? Chun Ermei was lucky enough to escape. Li Guzi looked at Bai Yiqiao in a daze and smiled. He reached out and touched Bai Yiqiao's small hand. Bai Yiqiao reacted and shook off Li Guzi's hand. "Li Guzi, if you want to live, then be honest." Li Guzi's face darkened and he shouted loudly, "There is a wife who is lewd and thirsty for a man. She will also give money." Li Guzi's words instantly attracted the attention of many men. Looking at Bai Yiqiao beside him, their eyes revealed obscenity as they leaned over. Bai Yiqiao's head buzzed and she almost fainted. The eyes of these men were like blades, cutting her body. Bai Yiqiao covered her face with her long sleeves and ran away. Li Guzi chased after Bai Yiqiao. "As long as you give me one more time, I promise I won't make trouble again," Li Guzi said shamelessly. All the blood in Bai Yiqiao's body rushed to her head. She looked at the proud dog Li. How could a person be so rotten? If she lost a good man like Fang Yong because of such a rotten person, Bai Yiqiao felt that she had nothing left to live for. Bai Yiqiao took a deep breath, and a cold aura came out from between her teeth. "Go to the inn." Okay. Li Guzi laughed. After laughing, he said, "You have to give me money. I don't have money for accommodation." Bai Yiqiao covered her face with a veil, only revealing a pair of eyes outside, and went to the inn to ask for a room. Li Guzi followed them to the room and immediately leaned over. Bai Yiqiao vomited in disgust and said, "Can you go wash up? Wash it clean." Okay. Li Guzi was now an obedient dog. He would do whatever he was told. Calling Li Guzi a dog was an insult to dogs. Li Guzi washed up and pounced on Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was in a daze during the whole process. Bai Yiqiao couldn't figure out why her rebirth day would be like this, because Li Guzi disrupted all her plans. Bai Yiqiao had a lot of scruples, her reputation, Fang Yong, and future glory and wealth. Li Guzi had nothing. He was barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes. Bai Yiqiao was a delicate porcelain, and Li Guzi was a stone. It was not worth it to use delicate porcelain to touch a stone. Bai Yiqiao cried silently. This should have been the pain that Chun Ermei suffered. Why was it added to her? In her last life, her legs were broken and she begged for a living. Chun Ermei wore brocade clothes and enjoyed wealth. In this life, she was defiled by a rotten person like Li Guzi. The most severe torture in life was just like this. Li Guzi sighed comfortably and lay on Bai Yiqiao's body with sticky sweat. Bai Yiqiao vomited and vomited beside the bed. Bai Yiqiao vomited and vomited. Li Guzi didn't care about Bai Yiqiao's dislike of him at all. He knew what kind of person he was. Li Guzi lay on the bed comfortably. The skin on his chest was loose, and his ribs were clear. He was ugly to death. His eyes were still looking at Bai Yiqiao's body. After Bai Yiqiao vomited, she began to put on her clothes. She looked at Li Guzi, who was naked all over, and said, "I want you to do something?" "Yes, say it. If you are not satisfied, you can come again." Li Guzi said wretchedly. Bai Yiqiao said coldly, "We are now in the same boat. If you dare to say it everywhere and let Fang Yong know, even if I want to drown you in a pig cage, you will be killed by Fang Yong. Fang Yong will shoot through your hand, your feet, and finally your head." Li Guzi's expression shrank a bit. He touched his head and asked, "What do you want me to do?" "Chen Ermiai, get rid of Chen Ermiai for me. It's best to let Chen Ermiai become your wife. No matter what method you use, ruin her reputation. It's very bad." Bai Yiqiao said. She was defiled by Li Guzi and fell into a quagmire. She didn't know how long this matter could be hidden, but Chen Ermiai was intact. She was struggling in the quagmire, but Chen Ermiai was watching on the shore clean. Bai Yiqiao's mind was broken. She suspected that fate was deliberately playing tricks on her. She wanted Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai to continue their previous relationship, and she, Fang Yong's wife, was defiled. If Fang Yong knew about her situation, he would definitely divorce her. At that time, Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai could be together again. The more Bai Yiqiao thought about it, the more ferocious her face became. She could not fall to such a state. In her previous life, she was abandoned by a man. In this life, if she was abandoned by Fang Yong again, she would not allow it. At this time, Bai Yiqiao was still blaming others. If she didn't have the intention to harm Chen Ermiai and find a rotten person like Li Guzi, and get involved with Li Guzi, how could such a thing happen? She had already married Fang Yong. Why was she so cruel to Chen Ermiai who didn't know anything? Li Guzi couldn't help but ask, "How did Chen Ermiai offend you? You have to treat her like this. Don't worry about it. In short, I want you to get rid of Chen Ermiai." Bai Yiqiao opened the door and left. Li Guzi took out the silver notes and smiled. He flicked his finger and said to himself, "I didn't expect this woman to be so rich." Li Guzi put on his clothes and took the money to spend. As for Bai Yiqiao's plan to deal with Chen Ermiai, he had money first. Bai Yiqiao went to the restaurant opened by the partnership to take a bath. Then she went to the medicine shop to get some medicine for injury as an excuse. Then she took the ox cart back to the village. Back in the village, Bai Yiqiao saw Ning Shu cutting grass by the edge of the field. Her face became ferocious for a moment. Chapter 877. When Bai Yiqiao saw Ning Shu, she was so angry that her body trembled. She stared straight at Ning Shu. Why was she like this, while Chen Ermiai was clean? Everything she had suffered should have been borne by Chen Ermiai. Did she want to enjoy the glory and wealth of her previous life in this life? How unfair was God? Fang Yong was originally her fiancé. In her previous life, Chen Ermiai was with her fiancé. In this life, she was with Fang Yong, but she was defiled by Li Guzi. She was about to give up her position to Chen Ermiai. Ning Shu turned his head and saw Bai Yiqiao with a gloomy face. He was in a very good mood. He smiled at Bai Yiqiao with a very bright smile and greeted her, sister-in-law of the Fang family. Ning Shu walked to Bai Yiqiao with a basket on his back and asked, "Why is sister-in-law of the Fang family looking at me like this?" Bai Yiqiao looked away and brushed past Ning Shu. "How long can you be proud? Even if she was defiled by Li Guzi, Fang Yong would not give it to you." Ning Shu smiled, and went back with the bamboo basket on his back. The grass in the basket turned yellow again because of the drought. If this goes on, there will be no chicken or duck to eat in the future. The field was dry and cracked, and the seedlings had been roasted yellow. Back home, Ning Shu cut the grass and fed it to the chickens. Then he tried to find a container to hold water, because the water level in the well dropped too fast. He couldn't live without water. She had exchanged water before the task, but if she suddenly took out water, it would make people suspicious. Ning Shu could only store as much water as possible. Even if there was no water, he could secretly release the water without arousing suspicion. At noon, Ning Shu's father Chen said, "Dad, let's kill the livestock at home slowly. There is nothing to feed them. If he fed the food at home to chickens, ducks and geese, he was afraid that Chen's father would jump. Mrs. Li said, I also think we can kill them slowly. Chen's father sighed. This year, the weather is sweating to death and waterlogging to death. I heard that there is a flood somewhere, and the house is flooded. Chen's father lowered his voice. It's going to be chaotic. When there was a strange phenomenon in the sky, there was bound to be a demon. The ancients liked to compare natural phenomena with human affairs. The normal logic was that the weather wasn't good, and the people didn't have enough to eat. Coupled with the severe exploitation of the imperial court, they raised the flag and rebelled. However, the ancients thought that it was a punishment from the heavens. No matter what, the current imperial court was rotten, and it was time to overthrow it and establish a new country. This disaster was an opportunity. From the looks of it, it was more like a punishment from the heavens. Damn, Ning Shu was confused by himself. Chun-Li said to Old Man Chen, Dad, what about this year's grain tax? The sky is so dry, it should be exempted for us. Wrong. Ning Shu said. It will only double the exploitation. Some places are in chaos now. In order to suppress the rebellions, the imperial court needs military funds and provisions. These are all counted on our heads. Layer by layer, I'm afraid the taxes this year will be unprecedentedly heavy. Now that the imperial court was in a state of disunity, all the officials wanted to fill their own pockets. Everyone was trying their best to take advantage of the chaos to make a fortune. Heavens, how are we going to survive like this? Chun-Li's face was full of worry. Use money for this year's taxes. Old Man Chen said, food is so expensive now. Ning Shu didn't say anything. In front of the country and the general trend, the power of an individual was so weak. However, with the money from selling ginseng, they could at least survive, so the Chun family didn't panic. There was no problem with their livelihood, so they could deal with Li Guzi and Bai Yiqiao. Now that Li Guzi and Bai Yiqiao were together, with Li Guzi's rogue personality, he would definitely get involved with Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was the boss of the restaurant. If Li Guzi knew, he would be so happy. In the middle of the night, Ning Shu went to Li Guzi's house and found that Li Guzi wasn't at home. He didn't know where he went. He probably had a relationship with Bai Yiqiao and blackmailed her. Li Guzi was just as Ning Shu guessed. He was now in the gambling house with the money Bai Yiqiao gave him. With 100 taels, Li Guzi didn't pay back the loan sharks. First, he went to the bank to exchange for silver, 8 delicacies, and played with 2 brothel girls. Well, when he saw that there was not much money left, he wanted to gamble and win it back. As a result, he had no money in his pocket. Without money, Li Guzi went to borrow money from the loan sharks and continued to gamble. In the end, he was thrown out of the gambling house. Li Guzi, who had no money, instantly thought that he hadn't paid back the loan sharks and owed another 100 taels. He couldn't help but scratch his head. He instantly remembered that his hands and feet were going to be cut off. How painful it would be. The next morning, Li Guzi returned to the village as if his butt was on fire and ran to find Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was very upset now. Because she had done something wrong to Fang Yong. She became more and more gentle to him. Because she was afraid. Afraid of being abandoned. Afraid that she would be like her last life. She was afraid that Fang Yong would know the truth and be unhappy. In the past, Bai Yiqiao had a little temper, which was the interest between husband and wife, but now Bai Yiqiao didn't know how to describe it. Lowly, very lowly. Fang Yong always felt that something was wrong with Bai Yiqiao. He couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with you?" When Bai Yiqiao heard this, her body couldn't help but tremble. She said with a smile, "It's nothing." Fang Yong just frowned and shook his head. "You've lost weight recently, and there's no color on your face. Just wait for me to do the things at home. Are you not feeling well?" Bai Yiqiao touched her face, suppressing the fear in her heart. She said with a smile, "It's okay. It's probably too hot. I don't have any energy." Fang Yong only thought that Bai Yiqiao couldn't stand the hot weather. He warned, "Don't stand under the sun. If you can't do the work, wait for me to do it. When I kill that white tiger, I'll buy you some good breathable fabric and make 2 sets of clothes." It was like coarse linen, very hot on the body. Bai Yiqiao looked at Fang Yong. Everything was afraid of comparison. People were the same. Li Guzi was extorting her like he was breaking her bones and sucking her marrow. But Fang Yong was really good to her. She must not lose Fang Yong. The tiger is very dangerous. If you can't kill it, run away. Bai Yiqiao said to Fang Yong with concern. When Fang Yong left, Bai Yiqiao saw that Li Guzi came to find her again. She had a feeling of fear and trepidation. When she heard that Li Guzi wanted 200 taels again, Bai Yiqiao's heart was filled with killing intent. Didn't I give you 100 taels to pay off the usury? Bai Yiqiao's throat was sweet and she couldn't wait to spit out a mouthful of blood. Li Guzi said, 100 taels is not enough. It's compound interest. I want to use 100 taels to gamble enough money. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that she felt dizzy. Li Guzi was a scum, a rotten person. Sister Bai, can you help me pay back the money? Li Guzi said. As long as you help me pay back the money, I will immediately help you deal with Chen Ermiai and let Chen Ermiai be despised by thousands of people. Why should I believe you? Bai Yiqiao's heart was filled with all kinds of emotions, full of anger, indignation, fear, and sadness. Chapter 878. Bai Yiqiao knew what kind of person Li Guzi was, but he just wanted to cheat money from her. Scum. But why would she have a relationship with such a scum? This man should be Chen Ermiai's husband. Chen Ermiai enjoyed a lifetime of glory and wealth in her last life. In this life she should pay off her debts. Li Guzi, don't think I don't know what you're thinking? Bai Yiqiao said coldly. If you don't give me money, I'll let you be cursed by thousands of people. Li Guzi threatened. You can only believe me. If I'm better, you can be better. Otherwise, I'll fight to the death. Li Guzi took advantage of the fact that he had caught Bai Yiqiao's pigtail and threatened to blackmail her. Bai Yiqiao took a deep breath. You solve Chen Ermiai for me first and I'll give you money. When Li Guzi heard that Bai Yiqiao had money, his eyes suddenly lit up and he immediately said, You want me to pay back the money? Chen Ermiai's matter needs to be considered in the long run. Bai Yiqiao had lived for 2 lives. How could she not know that Li Guzi was perfunctory? She said coldly, If I don't solve Chen Ermiai's matter, I won't give you a single copper coin. I'm going to be cut off by the loan sharks. As long as I'm not dead, I'll tell everyone about your affair, and you're the one who found me. It's you who defiled me. Bai Yiqiao trembled with anger at Li Guzi's words. Li Guzi said indifferently, Anyway, you'll be called a slut. Bai Yiqiao stared at Li Guzi, her eyes red with deep hatred. When Li Guzi saw that Bai Yiqiao didn't give him money, he actually reached out and searched Bai Yiqiao's body, which scared Bai Yiqiao. If someone saw it, it would be terrible. Bai Yiqiao said angrily, Just you wait. There's still interest. The interest is 100 taels. Li Guzi rubbed his chin and said. Bai Yiqiao staggered, went into the house and took the banknotes. Li Guzi immediately took the banknotes and ran away without a trace. 300 taels were gone. Many people had never seen such a huge amount of money in their lives. She also lost half of her savings. Bai Yiqiao wanted to kill Li Guzi, but when she thought that Chen Ermiai was not tortured by Li Guzi, she was very unwilling. Li Guzi was kept alive to deal with Chen Ermiai. Only by dragging Chen Ermiai into the quagmire, there would be no possibility between Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai. The more she was disgusted by Li Guzi, the more Bai Yiqiao knew how good Fang Yong was. She had been reborn for Fang Yong, and was on par with him. This time Li Guzi paid back the loan honestly. He still had a lot of money left, which was enough for Li Guzi to live a carefree life for a while. Bai Yiqiao waited every day for Li Guzi to pester Ning Shu and splash dirty water on Ning Shu, but Li Guzi didn't appear. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. When Dog Li ran out of money, he would appear in front of her. Li Guzi was treating her as a bank. Bai Yiqiao had too many things in her heart. She was so worried that she couldn't even eat. She used to be delicate and tender, but now she was sick and her face was pale. She was under too much pressure. Fang Yong saw her like this and asked Bai Yiqiao what happened. Bai Yiqiao always said that it was nothing, so Fang Yong gave all the game to Bai Yiqiao to nourish her body. Compared with Bai Yiqiao's worries, Ning Shu's life was much simpler. In addition to doing housework, he read books. Reading some medical books, Chunli asked Ningshu if he knew these words. Ningshu said he didn't know. Sometimes he went to the street to ask the person who wrote letters. Chunli had a headache when he saw the curved words. He didn't care what Ningshu was reading. Ningshu asked, "Second sister, I want to join the army." Ningshu said without raising his head, "Father won't agree. You are a man of the Chun family. You have to carry on the family line. You are dreaming." Chunli, "I'm just afraid that there will be conscription. I may be conscripted." Chunli said, "I want to join the rebellion army." "Lower your voice." Ningshu couldn't help but say, "Whether it's the imperial army or the rebellion army, people will die. If you don't carry on the Chun family's bloodline, father will break your legs." Not everyone had Fang Yong's luck. With Chun-Li's IQ, he was definitely someone who would be used as cannon fodder. Simple and honest people were not used to staying in the army. Not only did they have to face the enemy, but they also had to face the scheming of their own camp. It was impossible to imagine what Chun-Li would be like inside. Perhaps he could be polished and become a wily old fox, but before that, he had to ensure that he survived. Moreover, the conditions of the rebellion army weren't good. They didn't have food to eat or clothes to wear. However, they waved the banner of justice to make the people accept them. Chun-Li sighed and didn't say anything. It wasn't easy to survive in a chaotic world. He still had to go to war. He could fight for his future, but what was Chun-Li for? Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the sound of gongs and drums rang out. Chun-Li stood up and said, "This is the sound of the government's gong. Something happened in the county office." "I'm afraid it's not a good thing," Chun-Li said with a frown. After a while, Li Zheng came to the door. Li Zheng looked a little helpless and said to Chun-Li, "Where's your father?" "Go to the village entrance." Someone from the government office came to talk about something. "Uncle Li Zheng, what's the matter?" Chun-Li asked. "It's about the grain tax. But it's not the time for the autumn harvest yet, and the grain is all dried up. How can it be the autumn harvest now?" Chun-Li couldn't help but say, "Even if it's not a drought, it will take 2 months to harvest the grain." Ningshu pursed his lips. It meant that the treasury was empty and the war was tense. Although it wasn't affected here, many refugees were rushing over. The gongs and drums were beating more and more tightly. Father Chen came back from the field and went to the village entrance to gather. Ningshu and Madame Li also followed. 2 bailiffs in bailiff uniforms came. One held a gong and drum in his hand, and the other held a document in his hand. Ningshu glanced at the people around and saw Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao. They hadn't seen each other for a while, and Bai Yiqiao's spirit was a lot worse. Her face was pale, and her whole person looked very gloomy. She no longer had the complacent feeling of being superior to others. Li Guzi was a man who ruthlessly destroyed flowers. As long as a woman got involved with him, her blood would be sucked dry. Chen Ermiai was like this. She was tortured to death at the age of 30. Now Bai Yiqiao was like this. Bai Yiqiao couldn't bear to part with Fang Yong. She tried to hide it from Fang Yong. She was worried about her gains and losses, and the torment in her heart could be imagined, giving her a taste of her own medicine. Bai Yiqiao felt that someone was looking at her. She turned her head and saw Ningshu. She didn't know if it was Bai Yiqiao's illusion, but she felt that Chen Ermiai had become more beautiful. Cold and calm, neither fast nor slow, made Bai Yiqiao's heart full of a sense of crisis. Bai Yiqiao's heart was very sensitive. She always felt that Ningshu was looking at Fang Yong. She couldn't help but pull Fang Yong's arm to focus his attention on her. Chapter 879. Bai Yiqiao tightly grabbed Fang Yong's sleeve. Her expression was tense, and she was in a very nervous state. Bai Yiqiao's heart was in a mess. She cared about too many things, and her hands and feet were tied up. Fang Yong was pulled by Bai Yiqiao's clothes. He turned his head and asked, "What's wrong?" Bai Yiqiao forced a smile. "Nothing." Fang Yong raised his sleeve to block the hot sun for Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao's eyes were sore. This kind of Fang Yong made Bai Yiqiao hate Chen Ermiai and Li Guzi. She also hated the heavens. Why couldn't she do what she wanted? Was she living again so that she could live the life she was abandoned in her previous life? Ningshu looked away from Bai Yiqiao's body and looked at the two bailiffs. Everyone come. The bailiff said. Now let's talk about the imperial edict. Now we have to pay the grain tax. According to each family, each person will pay 3 stones. If you give money, each person will pay 4 taels of silver. The bailiff said. It's best to pay the grain. What kind of grain does the family have? New or old grain is fine. Hearing such a heavy tax, the villagers wailed and their faces were full of panic. This kind of tax, even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't be able to pay it. Ningshu was shocked. Although he knew that the tax might be heavy, he didn't expect it to be so heavy. 1 stone was almost 90 kilograms, which was 200 jin. One person had to pay nearly 600 jin of grain. Like the Chen family of 4, they had to pay 2,000 jin of grain. In ancient times, the yield per mu was very low, only a few hundred jin. Not to mention, it was a drought now, and there was no grain. As for 4 taels of silver, for the poor people, they couldn't save that much money in a year. No, they couldn't save that much in 2 or 3 years. 4 taels of silver for one person? The imperial court was really treating this like a child's play. All they had to do was talk. It was simply forcing people to rebel. The bailiff said something about loyalty and patriotism. When the country was in danger, they should pay for the country. He also scolded the rebels, saying that as long as the rebels were caught, they would be executed. The bailiff told everyone to go home and prepare. 10 days later, they would come to collect the grain and money. Ningshu couldn't help but shake his head. If the heavens wanted people to die, they would first make them crazy. The imperial court had really gone crazy, not giving the common people any chance to live. In order to survive, revolts and riots were all too normal. Bai Yiqiao turned her head and swept a glance at Ningshu. Seeing Ningshu's dignified expression, she sneered in her heart. His family had more than 100 taels of silver, but he still pretended to be frowning. It was extremely disgusting. Seeing the other Chen family members' relaxed expressions, Bai Yiqiao suddenly called out, "Big brother bailiff." Hearing Bai Yiqiao's voice, Ningshu immediately looked at Bai Yiqiao. Seeing the indescribable cruelty on Bai Yiqiao's face, he had a bad premonition. Bai Yiqiao glanced at Ningshu and said to the bailiff, "There is a family that can pay the taxes." Bai Yiqiao pointed at Ningshu. The Chen family found a ginseng, but it sold for a lot of money. When Bai Yiqiao said this, the surrounding villagers all stared at the Chen family. Their eyes were inexplicable as they whispered to each other. They even said that the Chen family had kept it a secret. No one could pay the taxes, they didn't even have food to eat, but the Chen family actually sold the ginseng. How much money was that? They didn't worry about scarcity but inequality. They didn't worry about poverty but chaos. Right now, the villagers just wanted to pay the taxes and live a peaceful life, and the Chen family was the breakthrough. Now the Chen family had become the target of public criticism. When the bailiff heard this, his eyes lit up. His eyes were filled with greed. Old man Chen's face was extremely ugly. Looking at Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao, Chun-Li actually wanted to rush over and hit Bai Yiqiao. "Bai Yiqiao, do you have a mouth just to talk nonsense?" Chun-Li rolled up his sleeves, his face trembling as he roared at Bai Yiqiao. Seeing this, Fang Yong hurriedly protected Bai Yiqiao behind him. Ningshu calmly stopped the rioting Chun-Li. Fang Yong was also inexplicably shocked. He never thought that Bai Yiqiao would say this in such a situation. The two families had agreed to keep this matter a secret. "Yiqiao." Fang Yong frowned and shouted. He couldn't understand why Bai Yiqiao would do such a thing that harmed others. Seeing Fang Yong's expression, Bai Yiqiao's heart trembled. She pursed her lips and said, "I'm telling the truth." Ningshu let out a deep breath and said to the bailiff, whose face was filled with greed, "The Chen family did find a ginseng, but the hunter Fang Yong was present. This ginseng was sold to the town's Ji Shirtang for 200 taels. Bailiff Big Brother can go and verify it. Then the 200 taels will be divided between the Chen family and the Fang family." The bailiff and the villagers looked at Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao. Fang Yong wiped his face. So Bai Yiqiao did something that harmed others without benefiting herself. He knew that this would be the result. Just as he was about to speak, Ning Shu spoke first. It was sold for 200 taels. Because this ginseng was found by Fang Yong got the biggest share, 150 taels. The Chun family got 50 taels. Ning Shu said calmly. When the Chun family heard Ning Shu's words, they were stunned for a moment, and then didn't say anything. The first one to be unkind was the Fang family, so they couldn't be blamed for being unjust. When Fang Yong heard Ning Shu say that he gave the Fang family 150 taels, his face became very ugly. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her face turned pale. She pointed at Ning Shu and shouted, "Sister Chen, what nonsense are you talking about? When did the Fang family get 150 taels? It's obviously your family who got the biggest share." Ning Shu spread out his hands. "See, you also admit that your family got the money." Bai Yiqiao suddenly choked. Fang Yong pulled Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao staggered twice and almost fell to the ground. Bai Yiqiao felt wronged in her heart. She also knew that she had done something wrong. She lowered her head and didn't speak. "Bailiff, big brother bailiff." Ning Shu interrupted Fang Yong's words. He bowed to the two bailiffs and said, "The Chun family is willing to pay 100 taels of silver. I hope that big brother bailiff can reduce the tax for each family." Fang Yong was very helpless. He cupped his hands towards the bailiff and said, "The Fang family is also willing to pay 50 taels of silver. Since it's an equal share, why can others give 100 taels of silver? Why can you give 50 taels of silver?" The bailiff said with dissatisfaction. "It's not." Bai Yiqiao wanted to speak, but was stopped by Fang Yong. Fang Yong said helplessly, "It's because my family is poor. I got the money to buy some things. That's all I have left. Give me as much as you have. Hand it all over. When you go back and report it to your parents, they will definitely praise your two families." The bailiff said. "Ning Shu." These words were like farts. He didn't believe a single word. In the end, Fang Yong handed over 70 taels of silver. The two bailiffs received nearly 10 jeans of silver and left with satisfaction. The villagers thanked Father Chen. Father Chen had never been respected so much before. He was proud, distressed and conflicted. So much money. That Bai Yiqiao is beautiful and gentle. I didn't expect her mind to be so vicious. As soon as he returned home, Chun-Li gnashed his teeth and said, Chapter 880. After Bai Yiqiao made such a ruckus, the relationship between the Chen family and the Fang family dropped to a freezing point. The Chen family lost 100 taels, and the Fang family lost 70 taels. As soon as the bailiff left, the two families turned around and left. Bai Yiqiao lowered her head and followed behind Fang Yong. From time to time, she raised her head to look at Fang Yong's heroic figure. She wanted to talk to Fang Yong, but feeling the heavy power of Fang Yong, Bai Yiqiao didn't dare to speak. Bai Yiqiao regretted in her heart. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have said it. What she thought at that time was that she had plenty of money, and if the Chen family didn't have the money to sell ginseng, she was afraid that they would be in trouble. Losing a few hundred taels was not a loss to her. She could earn it back in half a month, but if the Chen family didn't have this money, it would be difficult to continue. Before doing anything, Bai Yiqiao thought clearly. She really hated Chen Ermiai. Seeing Chen Ermiai, her heart felt as if 10,000 ants were gnawing at it. Fang Yong was not a stingy man, but now he didn't say a word to her. He was obviously angry. Bai Yiqiao was frightened and uneasy. Her tears fell down. Hearing the sobbing behind him, Fang Yong stopped and turned his head. He helplessly looked at Bai Yiqiao. "You're still crying?" Bai Yiqiao saw that Fang Yong was paying attention to her. She felt even more wronged and cried even harder. She wanted to vent all kinds of emotions that had accumulated in her heart. Fang Yong sighed and looked at Bai Yiqiao, who was crying and burping. "In the future, if you have anything to do, discuss it with me in advance. I have a preparation. Today, you didn't do it properly. You gave the government 70 taels for nothing, and also made the relationship between the two families stiff. I know I was wrong. Fang Yong, forgive me. I will find a way to get 70 taels," Bai Yiqiao said while wiping her tears. Fang Yong sighed. Money is a small matter. Bai Yiqiao smiled through her tears. She reached out and grabbed Feng Yang's clothes. The couple returned home. That Bai Yiqiao is beautiful and gentle. I didn't expect her mind to be so vicious. As soon as he returned home, Chun Li gnashed his teeth and said. Madame Li also said. How could I think of her? Last time. She fanned the flames and said that second sister and Dog Li had an affair. Ningshu drank water and didn't speak. So much silver. 100 taels of silver. Chun Li's face trembled in pain. Just think of it as spending money to avoid disaster. Old man Chen said. To be honest, I don't feel at ease with so much money at home. Wealth is gone, and people are happy. Ningshu also had the same idea. Since the bailiffs knew about this matter, they would definitely not be able to keep their money. They still had to feed the bailiffs, which was not something that could be settled with 10 or 20 taels of silver. If he didn't hand over the money, he was afraid that he would lose everything. If the bailiffs turned hostile and came to his house to search for the money, he wouldn't be able to keep the food in his house. At that time, he really wouldn't be able to survive. The people did not fight with the officials. There were only 2 bailiffs. There were so many people in the village, how could they not be able to defeat the 2 of them? The people were afraid of the imperial court. Giving out the money would also prevent others from coveting it. Didn't they see that the eyes of the villagers were red when they saw them? Therefore, the money slipped away after passing through his hands once. Fortunately, there was still some money left, which could last for a while. Feng Yang's wife. When Old Man Chen talked about Bai Yiqiao, his face was full of worry. Don't contact with that family in the future. At the critical time, you can see a person's character. Ningshu pursed his lips. If Bai Yiqiao wanted the Chen family to lose money, then let her lose money. In the middle of the night, Ningshu went to Li Guzi's house. Li Guzi was still not at home. The whole house was dilapidated, and there was no trace of human life. There were cobwebs inside, and dirty clothes were stuffed in the tattered wardrobe. A person like Li Guzi was not a person who could live a good life. Chen Ermei married such a man and suffered a lot. She was tortured to the point that she didn't recognize a ghost. Li Guzi didn't know how to cherish people. It was fine if he didn't cherish people, but he also beat women, exerted violence, did nothing, and still needed women to support him. Scum and beast were not enough to describe Li Guzi. Not seeing Li Guzi, Ningshu turned around and left. Early the next morning, Ningshu told the Chen family that he was going to the town to buy something. Now that there was no money at home, Old Man Chen told Ningshu to save money and not buy anything inexplicable. Ningshu took the basket and got on the ox cart to the town. Ningshu was going to find Li Guzi. Bai Yiqiao used Li Guzi to ruin Chen Ermei's life, so she would use Li Guzi to deal with Bai Yiqiao. Now the Feng family was still calm. He knew that Bai Yiqiao was going to hide this matter and live with Feng Yong as if nothing had happened. Ningshu wouldn't tell Feng Yong that his wife had cheated on him. It was better for dogs to bite each other, and his hands wouldn't be stained with blood. Ningshu arrived at the town and went to the rouge shop to buy some cosmetics. He simply dressed up and changed his appearance. His face was full of pockmarks, and he was ready to go to the gambling house to find Li Guzi. Li Guzi had money, so he would definitely gamble. Anyway, Li Guzi didn't do anything serious. He was either in the red light district in the gambling house, or in the restaurant to eat and drink. Ningshu walked into a gambling house. The gambling house was full of smoke and noise. It was crowded with people. The men were bare-chested and sweating profusely. In addition to the hot weather, the smell in the air was simply disgusting. Ningshu covered her nose with a handkerchief and looked for Li Guzi everywhere. He saw Li Guzi at a gambling table. Li Guzi stared at the dealer shaking the dice. His eyes were red and his face was very dark. Obviously, he had been gambling all night. He didn't have much money in front of him, only 2 pieces of silver. The dealer shook the dice for a while. Opening the goo was big, while Li Guzi bet on small. Li Guzi was so annoyed that his face was blue and his eyes were red, but he still continued to gamble and bet all the money in front of him. Ningshu covered his nose and went out. He waited for Li Guzi at the gate of the gambling house. Anyway, Li Guzi would naturally come out when he had no money. Ningshu fanned himself with his sleeves. It was so hot that the air was distorted by the heat. Not long after, Li Guzi was thrown out by the thugs of the gambling house. Li Guzi was thrown to the ground and gasped in pain. Li Guzi got up from the ground and patted the dust on his clothes. He felt hungry and was ready to go to the restaurant to eat something. Then he had to find a way to get money. Speaking of money, Li Guzi thought of Bai Yiqiao. He didn't know where Bai Yiqiao got the money. Bai Yiqiao gave him 400 taels and paid off more than 200 taels of usury. The rest of the money was squandered by him. Bai Yiqiao took the money easily. It was estimated that she still had money. Li Guzi felt that he was lucky. Bai Yiqiao was beautiful and rich. He didn't have to worry about the rest of his life. Li Guzi hummed a song and went to the noodle house to have breakfast. Ning Shu followed Li Guzi and saw him enter the noodle house. Ning Shu found two men and gave them some money. He asked them to go to the noodle house and talk later. Chapter 881. Ning Shu gave the two men some money. When the men saw that they could get money just by saying a few words, they went into the noodle shop and ordered 2 bowls of noodles. If you ask me, this noodle is really tasteless. A man said, "It's not tasty. It's already good to have noodles to eat. It's already good to have a bowl of noodles to eat in this kind of weather. It's going to be even more expensive next year." The other man said, "Let me tell you, it's really not tasty. There's no oil and only 2 pieces of salt. There's not even any onions. How can you eat it?" The man put down his chopsticks. "You haven't eaten it before. Auspicious House's food is called delicious. It's extremely fragrant. It's really that delicious. I've also heard of Auspicious House. It's just that the food there is expensive. I've eaten it before. My cousin works as a servant in a large family. He follows the young master and is rewarded a bit." The man said, "It's all eaten by people from large families. Auspicious House makes a lot of money. Barbecued meat brushed with oil and sprinkled with all kinds of seasonings. TSK, that taste." The man's face was filled with reminiscence. Hearing the two talk, Li Guzi also felt that the noodles were tasteless. He couldn't eat it at all. With Li Guzi's lazy character, of course he had eaten Auspicious House's food. Hearing the two talk, he was especially greedy. He touched the money in his bag and wanted to eat a meal, but it was only 2 copper coins. He definitely couldn't eat it. Really, she had aroused his craving for food. Who opened this Auspicious House? How much money does it make every day? A man exclaimed, "It's the young master of the One family when you." The One family is originally rich and is one of the top families in town. But I heard that this restaurant was opened in partnership with a woman. Woman? Yes, this woman is very low-key. I heard that she's called Bai Yiqiao. I heard that she's a peasant woman. I just heard that, but I don't know if it's true. Who knows, haha. Li Guzi was about to pay the bill and leave, but when he heard this, his fingers trembled. His heart was in turmoil. This restaurant was opened by Bai Yiqiao? This woman really kept it a secret. No one in the village knew that she opened such a profitable restaurant. Perhaps even Fang Yong, who was sleeping next to her, didn't know. Then he thought that giving him a few hundred taels was not a big deal. So it made sense. Otherwise, how could Bai Yiqiao have so much money and casually give him money? Li Guzi felt that the heavens were really helping him. Li Guzi threw 2 copper coins on the table and left the noodle shop for Auspicious House. Ning Shu followed behind Li Guzi and arrived at the auspicious residence. Li Guzi casually walked into the auspicious residence and carefully sized it up. The more he looked at it, the more imposing it was. Rich people came and went. Li Guzi touched his chin. It seemed that a few hundred taels from Bai Yiqiao was a small number. This was simply a hen that laid golden eggs. A waiter came up and asked Li Guzi what he wanted to eat. When Li Guzi saw the bowed waiter, he felt refreshed from his feet to the top of his head. He felt that he was also a character. He was Bai Yiqiao's man. Li Guzi didn't eat in the hall. Instead, he ordered a private room. He ordered whatever dishes were expensive. He ordered a table full of fragrant dishes. Li Guzi felt that the days of immortals were just like this. Li Guzi ate and burped. He wiped the oil from the corner of his mouth and prepared to leave without paying the bill. The waiter stopped Li Guzi. Guest, you haven't paid the bill yet. Bill? Do I need to pay the bill? Li Guzi stared and tried to make himself look more dignified, but he looked even more ridiculous. The waiter said, Guest, you have eaten in our restaurant, so you must pay. Do you want to eat and dash and eat for free? What a joke. Do I look like a freeloader? Let me tell you, I know your boss. Do you know? I am your boss's husband. Husband, do you know that I am also the boss of this restaurant? You, a waiter, actually dare to ask the boss for money. Are you tired of living? Li Guzi straightened his back and said. He looked very proud. For a moment, he felt that if Bai Yiqiao was his woman, how good would it be? The waiter looked surprised. One of the bosses was indeed a woman, and she was also married. Boss Bai's husband was like this? The waiter looked at Li Guzi, and his eyes were full of suspicion and contempt. What's going on? A man came over. The man was dressed in brocade clothes, and his temperament was as gentle as jade. He walked towards Li Guzi step by step. Li Guzi felt that he had seen a celestial being. Boss, this man said that he was Boss Bai's husband. The waiter said. When you looked up and down at Li Guzi, her face was normal. Li Guzi was a little embarrassed and felt ashamed. Are you really Bai Yiqiao's husband? When you asked aloud. Of course. Li Guzi stammered and felt that the brilliance of the other party made him at a loss. He was good-looking and rich. He was really reincarnated. When you said lightly, today is my treat. You don't have to pay. That's good. Li Guzi was very embarrassed. He turned around and went downstairs. When you said to Li Guzi, let me see you off. How can I do that? Li Guzi was flattered. Usually when these people met on the street, they wouldn't even give him a look. Now they wanted to see him off. Li Guzi's vanity soared, and he became more and more determined to hold on to Bai Yiqiao. Not only was she beautiful, but she also had money. She could also make him a person above others and be respected by others. Ning Shu, who was standing at the entrance of the restaurant, saw Li Guzi being sent out. He raised his eyebrows and saw the man beside Li Guzi. He was beautiful with bright eyes and delicate eyebrows. He looked like an elegant young master. Oh, this was a member of the Queen group who admired Bai Yiqiao. As for Wen Yu, she was born in a merchant family. She didn't wear any gold or silver, but her temperament was outstanding. She didn't look like a merchant at all. However, she looked gentle like jade, but inside, she was an old fox and profiteer. How much charm did Bai Yiqiao have to be able to make such a man fall in love with a married woman? Li Guzi said a few words to Wen Yu and ran away. Facing Wen Yu, he felt extremely embarrassed. He was suppressed by the other party's momentum. He didn't even know where to put his hands and feet. In fact, Wen Yu was testing Li Guzi in all aspects in her heart. In the face of a love rival, she couldn't help but show off her momentum. Li Guzi obviously couldn't do it. Bai Yiqiao loved her husband very much. If her husband was like this, Wen Yu shook her head. She was afraid that this man was not Bai Yiqiao's husband. It had to be said that Bai Yiqiao was cautious. She never told Fang Yong about her opening a restaurant. Her plan was to wait until Fang Yong joined the army, and then give him a surprise. In her previous life, Bai Yiqiao begged for a living. She knew the importance of money too well. She didn't have any clothes to wear and froze to death in the ice and snow. Even if she loved Fang Yong, she still had some reservations. After all, she was ruthlessly abandoned by the young master of a big family in her previous life. Chapter 882. Wen Yu narrowed her eyes and looked at Li Guzi's back. Bai Yiqiao's husband was such a person without any education. He was just a street gangster, but Bai Yiqiao's happy look didn't seem to be fake. Wen Yu said to the waiter, "Don't let him into the restaurant in the future." Wen Yu shook her head and turned back to the restaurant. In order to achieve his goal, Ning Shu went to the medicine shop to buy some medicinal materials. Now there was no money at home, so he still had to make the jade face mask to sell. He just didn't know if he could sell it. Anyway, Ning Shu didn't intend to buy the whole thing to an ordinary peasant woman. Ning Shu also sold some rodent-killing drugs. Now it was a drought, and the crops couldn't survive. Rats ran in groups on the dry and cracked land. There was a lot of food at home, and they had to be on guard against rats every day. Moreover, rats would bite people when they were hungry. The virus in the rats would spread to people, and they would be infected with the plague. After buying things, Ningshu went to the grain shop again, and asked about the price. The price of grain was now several times higher than before, even for coarse grain. In the past he could buy 10 jin of grain, but now he could only buy 2 jin at most. More merchants stored grain, intending to take advantage of the drought and riots to make a fortune. Grain would only get more and more expensive. Fortunately, he bought it and stored it before. Ningshu took the ox cart back to the village slowly. When he got home, he dealt with the medicinal materials in his hand. Father Chen watched Ningshu deal with it, and didn't say anything. Now there was no work in the field. Father Chen wandered around the house every day, and had nothing to do at all. From 3 meals a day, it was now reduced to 2 meals a day. Using Old Man Chen's words, there was no point in eating so much if they did nothing all day. They had to save their food. They didn't know what they would have to do this day. They had to wait until the next season's crops were ripe, before they could harvest. But without farm work, 2 meals were enough. In addition to grinding medicinal powder and reading medical books, Ningshu paid attention to the Fong family. Bai Yiqiao and Li Guzi had a relationship for a while, but the Fong family was still calm. It could be seen that Bai Yiqiao's ability was very good. Bai Yiqiao, who had experienced the internal strife in the backyard, had many more thoughts than ordinary peasant women, and was more decisive than ordinary peasant women when encountering matters. If she was an ordinary peasant woman, she would have been caught by her husband and could only cry. She would have been abandoned by her husband, pointed at by others, and even drowned in a pig cage. Her life would have been ruined. In fact, Bai Yiqiao was not as relaxed as Ningshu thought. It could be said that she was mentally and physically exhausted. On the one hand, she had to hide it from Fong Yong, and on the other hand, she had to deal with Dog Li, who came to blackmail her. Just like now, Li Guzi actually asked her for money again, and even said that she was the boss of Auspicious House. Bai Yiqiao was startled. She had never told anyone, not even Fong Yong, about the Auspicious House, so where did Dog Li hear about it? What nonsense are you spouting? How could the auspicious residence be mine? Are you dreaming? Bai Yiqiao whispered. As Bai Yiqiao spoke, she looked around. She and Dog Li were squatting at the foot of a hidden wall, surrounded by withered grass. Dog Li laughed wretchedly. I know you are the boss of Auspicious House. Today, I went to Auspicious House to eat. I said I was your husband, and they didn't even take the money. When Bai Yiqiao heard Dog Li's shameless words, she was so angry that she felt dizzy. This rotten person was worthy of being her husband. Moreover, he claimed to be her husband in Auspicious House. Dog Li was such a disgusting rotten person. She couldn't imagine how Wen Yu saw her. Dog Li had ruined her image in Wen Yu's heart. As a woman, she could feel a man's feelings towards her. Bai Yiqiao knew that Wen Yu had a good impression of her, but she always pretended not to know. She didn't respond, but it was also faintly ambiguous. Bai Yiqiao subconsciously used Wen Yu's good impression of her to seek benefits. For example, every time the monthly bonus was paid, Bai Yiqiao found that there was a little more money than in the account book. Even if she insisted on returning it to Wen Yu wouldn't accept it. Bai Yiqiao looked at Dog Li with red eyes, and waves of killing intent emerged in her heart. Boss Wen also sent me out, and personally sent me to the door. Dog Li said proudly. Now I have no money on me. Give me some money. Dog Li was now relying on Bai Yiqiao. As for the matter of Xing Xing painstakingly slandering Chen Ermiai, he was too lazy to do it. It was better to grab Bai Yiqiao's pigtail and ask for money. What kind of thing are you to ask me for money? You didn't do the things I told you to do, and you still want money? Do you not want your life anymore? Bai Yiqiao said coldly, especially when she saw Dog Li's natural appearance. Reaching out to ask her for money, Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her blood vessels were about to burst. I don't have money, and I'm not the boss of Auspicious House. I'm a woman, so how can I be the boss of a restaurant? Bai Yiqiao directly refused, thinking about how to take Dog Li's dog life. She was really disgusted by Guzi Li. She couldn't let Guzi Li off so easily. Otherwise, her suffering during this time would be in vain. She wanted Guzi to beg for death. Come on, I know you're the boss of Auspicious House. Otherwise, where did the money you gave me come from? In any case, I'm still your man. If you don't give me money, I'll tell everyone about you. I also know that you have a mole on your chest, Dog Li said proudly. If I tell this to Fang Yong, or tell the people of Auspicious House, will you still be able to stay in Auspicious House? Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her face turned pale. Her stomach was churning, and she wanted to vomit. She wanted to vomit on Dog Li's face. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? If Chen Ermiai was entangled by Dog Li, then Chen Ermiai would never be able to be with Fang Yong again. She would have no chance to be with Fang Yong. The killing intent in Bai Yiqiao's heart became stronger and stronger. She should have killed Dog Li when he defiled her. She wouldn't have given Dog Li a second chance to defile her and lost so much money for nothing. At that time, she wanted to give Dog Li to Chen Ermiai. Now she couldn't keep Dog Li anymore. She didn't harm Chen Ermiai, but she was entangled by Dog Li. Dog Li stuck to her like a dogskin plaster. Sooner or later, this matter would be exposed. Only when Dog Li died, the matter between her and Dog Li could be hidden from the world. As for Chen Ermiai's matter, even if there was no Dog Li, there was still Dog Zhao. As long as it was a man, he could defile her reputation. She became like this because of Chen Ermiai. She was already like this, so she couldn't let Chen Ermiai be intact. She couldn't lose Fang Yong, and she couldn't let her business partner, Wen Yu, know that she was defiled by such a man. In front of Wen Yu, such an elegant young master, she had a sense of propriety. But she was entangled with a disgusting man like Dog Li. What would Wen Yu think of her? Chapter 883. Bai Yiqiao suppressed the heavy killing intent in her heart and asked with an ashen face, "How much do you want this time?" The last time she gave Li Guzi money, it was to buy his life and send him away for the time being. Bai Yiqiao really wanted to kill Li Guzi immediately. Looking at him was extremely disgusting. Seeing Bai Yiqiao compromise, Li Guzi immediately cracked open his mouth and revealed his yellow teeth. Thinking that his threat was useful, he thought for a moment and said, 500 taels. Hearing such a huge amount, Bai Yiqiao's face was calm. Now she was too lazy to be angry. It was not worth it to be angry with a dead person. Killing such a scum was also eliminating evil for the people. Bai Yiqiao said indifferently, "Too much, I don't have that much. I only have some shares in the Auspicious House. When you earn most of it. Last time I gave you a few hundred taels. I have no money on me now." "Then how much do you have?" Li Guzi quickly asked. Bai Yiqiao said, 20 taels. In the past, she would often ask for 100 taels. When Li Guzi heard 20 taels, he immediately said with dissatisfaction, "Are you trying to get rid of a beggar?" In fact, 20 taels was not a small amount. Ordinary people might not even have 2 or 3 taels of silver a year. Li Guzi was spoiled and his appetite was getting bigger and bigger. Even if Bai Yiqiao told herself not to be angry, she was still angry at Li Guzi's shameless face. "Love or not, I don't have much." Bai Yiqiao's face was cold and slightly twisted. Li Guzi immediately threatened, "Do you believe that I won't tell others about your affair? You go and say it. If I die, let's see who you ask for money." Bai Yiqiao said fiercely. "Really?" Li Guzi asked. Bai Yiqiao shook her head and was too lazy to say anything. "Then 20 taels." Li Guzi took the money Bai Yiqiao gave him and went to the town to indulge in wine and women. Not long after Li Guzi left, Bai Yiqiao also went to the town. Ning Shu, who was paying attention to the movements of the Fang family, saw Bai Yiqiao go to the town and thought about it and followed. Bai Yiqiao first went to the Auspicious House to see Wen Yu. Wen Yu looked at Bai Yiqiao's pale and thin face and asked in surprise, "Are you sick?" Bai Yiqiao sighed and said, "Recently I've been pestered by a scoundrel. A scoundrel called Li Guzi insists that he's my husband. He loves to spoil the young women in the village. When the women in the village see him, they all take a detour. I don't know where they heard that I also have a share in the Auspicious House, but they came to extort me." When you nodded, I said, How could such a person be worthy of you? Do you have a house here that you don't live in? I want to borrow it. Bai Yiqiao said to Yu. Her voice carried a hint of coquettishness, as if she was pleading. There is, but what use do you have? Yu held the teacup and took a sip of tea. I just want to teach that Dogly a lesson. If he continues to speak such nonsense, my reputation will be ruined by him. Moreover, Fang Yong will be angry. Bai Yiqiao said. How do you want to teach him a lesson? Yu said indifferently. Obviously, she didn't put a scoundrel in her eyes. If you really feel troubled, I'll solve it for you. No need, I'll do it myself. Bai Yiqiao said. I'm very grateful that you can lend me a house. She was so miserably harmed by Dogly. She must teach Dogly a good lesson. Bai Yiqiao really wanted to skin Dogly alive. Yu lent the house to Bai Yiqiao. She also sent 2 servants to help her teach Dogly a lesson. Dogly, who had gambled away 20 taels, was thrown out of the gambling house. 20 taels was enough for Dogly to gamble for a while. Dogly was greedy and wanted to win a lot of money. Every time he bet, the amount of money was relatively large. Dogly thought about it and decided to go to the auspicious house to ask for money. The auspicious house was so rich. Last time he didn't pay the bill. This time he said that he was Bai Yiqiao's husband. He would definitely be able to get money. Even if he couldn't get money, he was hungry and went to eat something. Dogly casually went to the auspicious house. Before he reached the auspicious house, 2 servants suddenly appeared and grabbed him. He was dragged into a house with his mouth covered. Ningshu hid not far away and watched Dogly being dragged in from the back door. Then the door was tightly closed. He was afraid that the current Bai Yiqiao couldn't stand Dogly's endless extortion, and planned to deal with Dogly. What was the point of killing each other? However, Ningshu didn't want Dogly to die like this. If Dogly died, there would be no evidence. Ningshu mobilized the qi in his body, and stepped on the courtyard wall to enter the house. This house was not big, but it also had what it should have. There was a garden, but there was not much human life. There were some weeds in the flower bed. The flowers were also luxuriant. No one trimmed them, so it was very messy. Dogly was dragged into the room. He was stripped down to his underwear and tied to the bed, unable to move. He was immediately scared out of his wits. He wanted to call for help, but his mouth was stuffed with something, so he couldn't shout at all. The door opened with a creak. When Dogly heard this sound, he was so scared that he was sweating profusely. His face twitched, and he turned his head to look at the door. What entered his sight was a woman's skirt, a beautiful pleated skirt. Dogly looked up and saw Bai Yiqiao's beautiful face. Seeing Bai Yiqiao, Li Guzi immediately whimpered, his eyes imploring. Bai Yiqiao coldly looked at Dogly on the bed. Her eyes were penetrating. Dogly was chilled by Bai Yiqiao's gaze and couldn't help but struggle. How does it feel to lie here and not be able to move? Bai Yiqiao asked aloud. The hand behind her back took out a thick wooden ruler. The wooden ruler was fine, but this wooden ruler was densely packed with nails. The nails penetrated the wooden ruler and hit a person's body. The nails would sink into the flesh. It could turn a person into a sieve full of holes. Whoa! Dogly's eyes widened. His expression was incomparably frightened. He struggled violently and crazily shook his head at Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao just coldly curled the corner of her mouth. Do you know how long I have endured you? What kind of thing are you to treat me like this? Whoa! Dogly sobbed at Bai Yiqiao with tears streaming down his face. You want me to spare you, ask me for money, and threaten me. Aren't you very arrogant? Bai Yiqiao raised the wooden ruler and hit Dogly's thigh. Dogly's eyes suddenly bulged out. He whimpered from his throat. His whole body trembled in pain. His body spasmed uncontrollably, causing Dogly's eyes to turn white. Bai Yiqiao took the wooden ruler and pulled it out. The nails were covered with blood. Dogly's thigh had several bloody holes, and was bleeding profusely. Bai Yiqiao looked at the pale Dogly and said with a smile, "It's painful. The pain you put on me is 1,000 times, 10,000 times more painful than this." Her rebirth, which should have been a happy rebirth, was ruined by Dogly, a rotten person. Being defiled by a person like Dogly was worse than death. When facing Fang Yong, She could no longer be as confident as before. Chapter 884. Ningshu hid outside the window and watched Bai Yiqiao abuse Guzi Li. She hit Guzi Li with a board between his legs. That place was a man's most vulnerable place. It was badly mutilated by the nails. Guzi Li fainted directly. Ningshu's eyes were straight. Listening to Bai Yiqiao's complaints, her whole person became Spartan. To be honest, Bai Yiqiao was the person who could shirk responsibility the most she had ever seen. Everything was the fault of others. She was not wrong. It was right for her to harm others for her own happy life. It was wrong for others not to let her harm them. What a weird way of thinking. Did the heavens give you a chance to be reborn just so you can torture others? She couldn't figure out why such a person would have a second chance in life. What did others do wrong to be hurt like this? Bai Yiqiao hit Guzi Li for a while. When she was tired, she stopped. Looking at Guzi Li, who was lying on the bed like a bloody man. The air was filled with a strong smell of blood. Bai Yiqiao covered her mouth in disgust and ran out. Ningshu saw that there was no one in the room. He jumped into the room from the window and saw Guzi Li on the bed. Guzi Li was full of bloody holes. He didn't know how long he could live. Ningshu first stuffed a fasting pill into his mouth. When the fasting pill entered his mouth, it turned into a hot current and entered every corner of his body. There was energy in his body that could support him for a while. Then he transferred a trace of energy from his dantian into Guzi Li's body. The energy could slowly repair the injured body. Ningshu untied the rope that tied Guzi Li's hands and feet. He wrapped Guzi Li with the sheet on the bed. Guzi Li was covered with blood. Wherever he went, he would bleed. Ningshu carried Guzi Li on his back and tied Guzi Li to himself with a rope. Ningshu slipped out of the house. Ningshu ran quickly and took Guzi Li to the clinic. He gave the doctor one tael of silver and put Guzi Li in the room behind the clinic. Ningshu fed Guzi Li anti-inflammatory pills, but now Guzi Li couldn't even swallow water. Ningshu ground the pills and mixed them with water. He pinched Li Guzi's chin and poured the pills into his mouth, but most of the water flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Li Guzi's face was ashen, and his breathing was weak. He looked like he was about to die. Ningshu transferred all the qi strength in his dantian to Guzi Li. Ningshu released his mental strength and guided the qi strength to heal Guzi Li's wound. There were many bloody holes on Dog Li's body. The energy could only stop Dog Li's bleeding. It was already good enough to stop the bleeding. The doctor in the clinic sprinkled some medicinal powder on Li Guzi's wound. Ningshu saw that it was getting late and prepared to go back. If he went back late, the Chen family would be worried. Before leaving, Ningshu paid the consultation fee and told the doctor not to tell anyone else that this person was here. He must not tell anyone else. Before leaving, Ningshu bought some medicinal herbs and took the basket back to the village on the bullock cart. Bai Yiqiao, who was disgusted by the smell of blood, even vomited bile. After vomiting, her whole body was weak and she was dizzy. Bai Yiqiao had a bad premonition in her heart. Her symptoms? Pregnant. How could this be possible? Bai Yiqiao was afraid. If she was really pregnant, whose child was this? Bai Yiqiao was angry and anxious. She turned back to the room and saw that Guzi Li, who was supposed to be lying on the bed, was gone. Bai Yiqiao's heart beat heavily. Her body softened and she fell to the ground. How could Guzi Li disappear? How could he disappear when he was injured like that? He couldn't untie the rope himself. Someone come. Bai Yiqiao shouted at the two servants at the door. Where is he? Where did he go? The two Wen family servants also looked at each other. They had been guarding and didn't see anyone go out at all. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that she fainted at once. When Bai Yiqiao woke up, she was in the auspicious house. When Yu was sitting beside the bed. When Yu saw that Bai Yiqiao had woken up, she said with a complicated expression, "Congratulations, you are pregnant for a month." Bai Yiqiao was lucky to see a doctor beside the bed. When she heard Wen Yu's words, it was as if someone had punched her in the head. She saw stars and her vision turned black. "What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well?" Wen Yu asked. Bai Yiqiao saw that it was already so late. She quickly lifted the quilt and went back to the village. I'll go first. Thank you. Bai Yiqiao stood up and staggered twice. Wen Yu reached out to support her. Bai Yiqiao pushed Wen Yu's hand away. Thank you. I'll go first. Bai Yiqiao struggled to return to the village. It was already dark. Fang Yong was looking for her everywhere. Without waiting for Fang Yong to speak, Bai Yiqiao took the lead and said, Fang Yong, I'm pregnant. Fang Yong was stunned for a moment, then put on a face. Why did you come back so late? It's dangerous. I know. Bai Yiqiao said. Fang Yong reached out to support Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao said with a smile, I'm not that fragile. Fang Yong was still supporting Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao's face was smiling brightly, but her heart was full of shadows. This child was most likely Li Guzi. Because he was defiled by a person like Li Guzi, he was so disgusted by that kind of thing that he even ignored Fang Yong for a period of time. If it was really Fang Yong's child, this child should not be a month old. Bai Yiqiao looked at Fang Yong's happy expression and took care of her. Bai Yiqiao's heart was extremely uncomfortable. This child was not Fang Yong's at all. How could she be pregnant with Li Guzi's child? Li Guzi was such a disgusting person. Moreover, she didn't know where Li Guzi had gone. What if Li Guzi, who had escaped, jumped over the wall and said what happened between them? Bai Yiqiao felt uncomfortable and vomited very badly. Fang Yong, the new father, didn't know what to do. He could only ask his mother. The better Fang Yong treated Bai Yiqiao, the more Bai Yiqiao hated the child in her stomach. It was a bastard in her stomach. She couldn't imagine what the child of an ugly person like Li Guzi would look like. Bai Yiqiao had always been wary of Li Guzi's sudden appearance, but in the past few days, Li Guzi seemed to have evaporated from the world. Bai Yiqiao breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe Li Guzi had died long ago. After all, Li Guzi was so seriously injured. The lower part was rotten. Li Guzi shouldn't be able to live like this. She was worried about the child in her stomach and the father of the child. Bai Yiqiao wanted to solve both of them. This child couldn't be kept. She wanted to give birth to a child that belonged to Fang Yong. But Fang Yong and Fang Yong's mother cared about this child very much. Fang Yong didn't let her do anything now. He was considerate to her. She couldn't imagine what Fang Yong would do if he lost this child. Moreover, Fang Yong's mother, who had bad eyesight, went to every house with a wooden stick to ask for old clothes. She used the old clothes to make clothes for the child. The skin of the child who had just been born was delicate, and the old clothes worn by people were soft. Washing them clean and making clothes for the child would be comfortable to wear. Chapter 885. The mother and son of the Fang family are very much looking forward to the child in Bai Yiqiao's belly, but Bai Yiqiao's heart is like suffering in a pot of oil, and she is extremely disgusted with the child who is growing up in her belly day by day. This is the product of rape. Bai Yiqiao will not keep it. Bai Yiqiao is thinking about how to get rid of the child, and it has to be worth it. Ningxu knows that Bai Yiqiao is pregnant when Fang Yong's mother comes home to ask for old clothes. Ningxu can't help but guess who the child in Bai Yiqiao's belly is. However, Ningxu sees that Bai Yiqiao is always wandering around the Chen family, so he takes the opportunity to talk to her, saying that he wants to apologize to her. Bai Yiqiao wants to apologize to Ningxu because of the ginseng last time. Ningxu knows in an instant. I'm afraid that this child is Li Guzi. Now Bai Yiqiao wants to get rid of the child and frame it on her. Ningxu. Or it's a person who came out of the backyard fight, killing two birds with one stone. Since she has solved the evil in her belly, she has put the vicious reputation on her head. How could Fang Yong have anything to do with someone who killed his own child? Even if he had anything to do with him, it was still hatred. Ningxu doesn't pay attention to Bai Yiqiao at all. He closes the door of the courtyard and hides at home. He won't see you or have any physical contact with you. Let's see how you frame me. Ningxu tells the Chen family to take a detour when they see Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao is very angry when she sees that the Chen family is not fooled at all. Not long after she comes out, she will be taken home by Fang Yong. Fang Yong is worried that she will have a heat stroke and her body can't bear it. Bai Yiqiao is very upset and can't get angry with Fang Yong. Ningxu goes to the town's medical center to see Li Guzi. Li Guzi hasn't woken up yet, and the wounds on his body are festering. Ning Shu feeds him some medicine again, and transmits the energy he has cultivated these days into Li Guzi's body to slowly heal him. Ning Shu doesn't intend to treat Li Guzi into a normal person, as long as he wakes up and is conscious. Anyway, Li Guzi couldn't live after doing such a shameful thing. Fang Yong was a man with a temper. Now that it was a chaotic world, killing a few people was nothing. Furthermore, Fang Yong was going to join the revolutionary army. Ning Shu paid some medical fees and bought some things before returning to the village. Carrying a basket, he met Bai Yiqiao at the door of the house. When Bai Yiqiao saw Ning Shu, her eyes lit up and she walked quickly. Ning Shu walked over. Ning Shu turned around and ran away. He just didn't talk to Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao. Ning Shu circled around to avoid Bai Yiqiao and went home. Bai Yiqiao. Seeing Ning Shu like this, Bai Yiqiao couldn't help but hammer her stomach. Chen Ermiai was truly disgusting. Bai Yiqiao really hated Ning Shu. Nothing she did went smoothly. Bai Yiqiao stood motionless under the sun. Even though it was extremely hot, Bai Yiqiao's body couldn't stop emitting waves of cold air. How could her life be like this? Yiqiao, why did you come out again? It's so hot. Fang Yong saw Bai Yiqiao standing under the sun in a daze. Fang Yong felt that Bai Yiqiao had become very strange. Was she different from when they got married? Fang Yong held Bai Yiqiao's hand. Bai Yiqiao's hand was very cold. Your hand is so cold. Are you cold? In this kind of weather, her hand was actually so cold. Ning Shu opened the door a little and stuck her head out. She said to Fang Yong, who was not far away, Fang Yong, can you not let your wife hang around in front of my house? Your wife is pregnant now. If anything happens to her, it will be our family's responsibility. I'm too lazy to talk about the ginseng last time. This time it's about a child. A life. Our Chen family can't bear such a debt. Ning Shu said bluntly. If you're pregnant, why don't you stay at home and take care of the baby? Ning Shu curled his lips and said. Fang Yong glanced at Ning Shu and held Bai Yiqiao's hand tightly. He said indifferently. Even if something happens, it won't be your fault. Yiqiao just wants to apologize. Why do you have to speak so harshly? She spoke harshly, but what Bai Yiqiao did was ugly. Well, I forgive you. Don't come and hang around. Ning Shu closed the courtyard door. In front of outsiders, Fang Yong naturally protected Bai Yiqiao. But when the two of them were together, Fang Yong couldn't help but frown and say, Yiqiao, what's going on? If you have anything to say, just tell me. You're making me very uncomfortable. Even if you don't care about yourself, you have to worry about the child in your belly. Bai Yiqiao's eyes were red, and tears fell down. I feel uncomfortable in my heart, and you're still so fierce to me. Fang Yong sighed helplessly and led Bai Yiqiao home. After that, Bai Yiqiao didn't come to Ning Shu. After all, no one was a fool. Bai Yiqiao knew that Ning Shu was on guard against her. She stopped doing useless work and thought of other ways to get rid of the child in her belly. Seeing that Bai Yiqiao was obediently staying at home, Fang Yong was relieved. He took his hunting tools and went up the mountain. After all, tigers were not so easy to kill. Maybe it was because the weather was too hot and there was no water, but this white tiger seemed to be very irritable. Fang Yong secretly observed for a long time to observe the tiger's situation. Now that he had a child to raise, Fang Yong wanted to rely on the tiger's skin and bones to make some money. After a difficult battle, Fang Yong killed the white tiger. In order not to destroy the integrity of the tiger's skin, Fang Yong shot an arrow into the tiger's eyes. Moreover, he was very powerful and raised his fist to kill the tiger. Fang Yong carried the white tiger as tall as a person home, which attracted the attention of the villagers. Chun-Li Ning Shu said, Fang Yong is really powerful. He actually killed a tiger. Ning Shu didn't have any expression. Killing a tiger was nothing. She could also kill a tiger. But she was a lady. Ning Shu was pulled by Chun-Li to watch the tiger. The tiger was really big, and the tiger's skin was very complete. The fur was shiny. He was afraid that it was worth a lot of money. There were also tiger bones. Ning Shu didn't care about the tiger at all. Instead, he looked at Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao's face was pale and her face was thin. Her figure was extremely thin, and there was an indescribable gloominess between her eyebrows. There was no gentleness and joy of becoming a mother at all. Ningxu was once again sure that the child in Bai Yiqiao's belly was not Fang Yong's. Ningxu glanced at Fang Yong, who was skinned and boned. Fang Yong looked complacent. Killing the king of the jungle was a proof of the courage of the strong, and now his wife was pregnant. Life seemed to be very perfect. Chun-Li whispered in Ningxu's ear, saying how powerful Fang Yong was. He also wanted to learn martial arts and hunt. Ningxu shrugged his shoulders expressionlessly and turned to go home to make medicine. These medicines were prepared for Li Guzi. Ningxu wrapped the powder and put it in the basket. He was ready to see Li Guzi. Li Guzi had woken up, but he still couldn't move. Ningxu didn't appear in front of Li Guzi, so he didn't intend to involve himself in the matter between him and Bai Yiqiao. Chapter 886. Ningxu went to the place where the carriage was rented and rented a flatbed donkey cart, which wasted so much of her qi. Now that Li Guzi was conscious and could speak, he naturally had to be sent to Fang Yong and Bai Yiqiao. Ningxu told the owner of the donkey cart the address and asked him to send Li Guzi to Fang Yong's house. When Li Guzi woke up, he was still glad that he had survived, but he heard from the doctor that he would be a useless person for the rest of his life. A useless person without the ability to reproduce, just like a eunuch. Because he was badly mutilated by the nails, in order to prevent inflammation, the doctor directly cut off his lower part. Li Guzi was incomparably broken. He hated that bitch Bai Yiqiao to death in his heart. At this time, someone moved his body and wanted to move him away. Li Guzi immediately said in horror, "Where are you taking me?" Li Guzi hated Bai Yiqiao in his heart, but he was a little afraid of Bai Yiqiao in his heart. The feeling of nails piercing into his flesh was terrifying. Now that he was injured, if he was caught by Bai Yiqiao, he would be dead. When his injuries were healed, he would definitely teach Bai Yiqiao a lesson. "Where are you taking me?" Li Guzi was so scared that his voice trembled. Li Guzi was a coward. Although he wanted to take revenge on Bai Yiqiao, he still felt that his life was more important. Li Guzi was carried to the donkey cart at the door. In order to prevent Li Guzi from moving, his hands and feet were tied. The donkey cart slowly went to the village. When Ningxu saw this, he hurried back. After all, he had planned for a long time, and now he was finally going to expose it. Ningxu returned to the village before the donkey cart, and then waited for the donkey cart to arrive at Fang Yong's house. Li Guzi was tied to the donkey cart, and looked at the scene on the side of the road. This was the way back to the village. He would definitely be killed by Bai Yiqiao when he returned to the village. He was now covered with wounds and couldn't run away at all. The closer he got to the village entrance, the faster his heart beat. When they arrived at Fang Yong's house, the donkey cart stopped, and the owner knocked on the courtyard door. It was Fang Yong who opened the door. The driver said, "I've brought him to you." Guzi Li turned his head and saw Fang Yong. He was scared out of his wits. Fang Yong glanced at Guzi Li with a little surprise in his eyes and said, "His house is in that direction, at the end of the village." "Fang Yong, who is it?" Bai Yiqiao came over and asked. The corner of her eyes swept over the people on the wooden carriage. Her body immediately froze, and the blood on her face disappeared completely. Bai Yiqiao staggered twice. She stared blankly at Dog Li on the wooden cart and said in horror, "Why are you here?" Bai Yiqiao's heart beat like a drum, as if a stick had struck her head, causing her eyes to darken, and she almost fainted. When Li Guzi saw Bai Yiqiao, his eyes instantly turned red. Thinking of Bai Yiqiao's abuse of him, he could no longer play with women. He was not even a man. "Fang Yong, I'm not feeling well. Let's go in." Bai Yiqiao pulled Fang Yong's arm and pulled him into the courtyard, wanting to close the door. "Hey, didn't you say that it's fine to just drop me off here?" The coachman was a little puzzled. "Fang Yong, what happened?" A few more people came out of the house. Ever since Fang Yong killed the tiger, people often came to the Fang family to see the tiger skin, tiger whip, and so on. Now there were a few people in the house. When they came out and saw Li Guzi on the flatbed cart, they asked one after another, "Li Guzi, what kind of heinous thing did you do to make others beat you like this?" I was harmed by a poisonous woman. Li Guzi gritted his teeth and said. The onlookers all roared with laughter and said, Li Guzi, you shouldn't have been blackmailed by a woman in a brothel alley, right? You didn't have money to pay for the prostitutes, so you were beaten up. Li Guzi's face trembled as he stared at Bai Yiqiao with hatred. Bai Yiqiao avoided Li Guzi's gaze and said to Fang Yong, The sun is so poisonous. My stomach is not feeling well. Fang Yong, let's go in. Don't worry about him. Bai Yiqiao pushed Fang Yong into the house in a panic, looking extremely terrified. What's wrong with you? Fang Yong immediately asked with concern. I have a terrible headache. Let's go in. Don't talk to such a person. Bai Yiqiao's voice had uncontrollable tension and fear. There were more and more onlookers, and the Chen family also gathered in the crowd. Ning Shu just watched silently, peacefully as a melon watcher. Li Guzi was lying on the flatbed cart and couldn't move. He deserved it. Li Guzi was so miserable, but no one sympathized with him. He was a failure as a person. In the village, he was hated by people and dogs. Scourge. Before, Li Guzi was still afraid, but now that he saw his enemy, his blood rushed straight to his head. Especially when he saw Bai Yiqiao's soft and weak appearance, and then he thought of cruelly abusing him. Li Guzi roared without thinking. Bai Yiqiao, you bitch, you dare to harm me, shameless bitch. In the face of Li Guzi's accusation, Bai Yiqiao's body trembled. She forced herself to calm down with fear on her face. Her face was slightly distorted. She should have pulled out Li Guzi's tongue at that time, so that he could no longer speak. Why did Li Guzi appear? Who saved him? Bai Yiqiao's heart was about to burst with fear and anger. She wanted to faint at this moment. Fang Yong stood in front of Bai Yiqiao and said to Li Guzi with a cold face, Li Guzi, pay attention to what you say. If you talk nonsense again, I won't be polite to you. Li Guzi sneered. Taking advantage of the fact that there were many people around, he said coldly, The wounds on my body were caused by your good wife, your virtuous wife. That nail was nailed on my body. What a vicious bitch. Big brother, help me lift up my clothes. Li Guzi said to the man driving the cart. I'll do it. Many busybodies stretched out their hands to untie Li Guzi's clothes. As soon as the clothes were untied, Li Guzi's body was densely covered with small holes. The weather was too hot, and the wounds were inflamed. There was white pus, and it emitted a foul smell. The onlookers immediately stepped back 2 steps. Fang Yong frowned. Li Guzi, what right do you have to blame this on Yiqiao? She's a woman. How can she deal with a man like you? Yiqiao has no reason to treat you like this. If you don't make things clear today, I'll break your legs. Fang Yong said fiercely. Bai Yiqiao's face was pale. She said weakly to Fang Yong, Fang Yong, don't listen to his nonsense. It's a waste of time to talk to this kind of person. I'm not feeling well. Let's go in. Fang Yong held Bai Yiqiao's hand and said, This matter must be made clear. I can't let people slander you like this. If this matter is not made clear, it's not good for your reputation. I don't want you to be pointed at by others. I'm not like our child who was born with a bad reputation. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.